Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Welcome to your Monday. How we doing, people? How we doing? OG already. I'm sorry, OG. OJ Weston already in the building. Shout out to everybody. Let's see. Okay, cool. Yo, we got a really heavy show today. Kendrick dropped something Thursday, and I dropped a little video speaking about it really quick, and people had some things to say. Yo, what's good? What's good? Judgment Day is always in here on time. Always in here on time. Yo, what up, everybody? Man, somebody didn't like some folks. I don't want to say somebody. A lot of people didn't like some of my critiques that went on. Thumbs up early, guys. Yeah, let's get these thumbs up in here early, man, so we can get up in here. Um, man, first off, because we got a lot of business to take care of. First off, man, rest in peace, Tito Jackson. Rest in peace to um mm, man, Rich Homie Quan. We didn't really give Rich Homie Quan his just due the other day as well. Um Frankie Beverly, rest in peace. We're gonna salute to all of those gentlemen today. I know it's kind of across the board or whatnot. I saw a meme the other day, and I want to speak about this a little bit more when Siobhan gets in the room. But they were just talking about the Atlanta scene of 2010s and how it has drastically changed. It was a picture of the Migos together with Rich Homie Quan, together with Pee Wee Longway. We know what he's going through right now, together with Young Thug. And it's like, does Atlanta need a resurgence, man? And we're going to talk about that when we speak on Future's new mixtape that's dropping Friday, where he has the original Dungeon Family house as the album cover. And, rest in peace to Rico Wade as well. There's a huge opportunity there for Future. Now, again, all of these things shouldn't be on Future's back because he's a veteran. And I think the hip hop is looking for some level of a resurgence altogether, but Atlanta definitely needs it. And you can say whatever you want about that 2010s era, whether Atlanta quote unquote ruined hip hop or not, but those individuals between Future, Thug, Migos, even if you want to go Ray Shrummer, like these guys were running the radio, running the club scene, all of those things. And yeah, man, it's been a drastic change. Oh, yeah. Okay, talk about Jay-Z confirmed as having the final say so in the Super Bowl performances. You guys want to start there? We can. We can actually start there. We actually thought about, making that a prime topic. But, okay. Variety reports that the Super Bowl halftime producer Jesse Collins confirms that Jay-Z picks the performers in an interview with Variety, obviously. And it says it's a decision that Jay-Z makes. Since we've been on the board with that show, he's made it every year, and it's been amazing. He always picks right. So, producer of the halftime show confirms that Jay-Z makes these decisions. And I know, over the past couple of weeks, when Kendrick was chosen as the Super Bowl halftime performer and not Lil Wayne in New Orleans, Cameron and many others, and we're going to talk about Cameron a little bit later, do a little legacy conversation with Cam. They said, it wasn't right, and it was a decision coming from Jay-Z. And then, okay. Then the internet gets going. Then they said the city chooses this. Now I know Juvenile went out there and did a live, and he was like, he blamed the NFL, and all the blame is all over the place, right? And then ultimately, the producer of the Super Bowl halftime show puts it on Jay and says, hey, Jay-Z is the one that makes the decision every single year since he's been involved. So he gets the final say so, according to, Super Bowl halftime producer Jesse Collins. Now, you look him up, you can look up that article. He said it. I think he would know. He's the producer of the Super Bowl halftime show. Thumbs up in the chat. He is the Super Bowl halftime show producer, so he would know. Doesn't sound like it's any propaganda on that end. And, why would it be? And even if so, Jay-Z has to, I don't want to say get some blame, but there has to be somebody who is viewed as the individual that makes the final decision. It's not by committee, it is by an individual here. And whether right or wrong, or whether you like the decision, dislike the decision, it's a decision that, according to Jesse Collins, that Jay-Z made. Now, I guess the deeper question would be, shout out to Rigomatic. What up, y'all? What up, Still Here? What up to Judgment Day? I guess the question would be here, was it the right decision? Now, I know we covered this in previous shows, and we're going to continue to kind of, I won't say delve deeper into this, but actually look at the different dimensions of this conversation. Many people feel that because of Wayne's most recent performances and it appearing that Wayne may be on some narcotic of some degree, many people feel like, from Jay-Z's standpoint, since we know he's making the decisions, this was a better business decision because there's a level of professionalism that comes with Kendrick Lamar that doesn't come with Lil Wayne. Now, I want to ask you guys, do you think that's a legitimate conversation? And is that something that that came into the decision-making process? Now, it does come across as personal because of all of these other things that are tied to Wayne. But do you think that this was just a strictly business decision, that Wayne has shown in recent years that, according to some people and some of the footage that's going out there from his WWE performance or whatnot, that he might not be the most professional performer to go out there on that Super Bowl stage? Do you think that is a legitimate critique? And do you think that, just straight up, do you think that Jay-Z made the right decision on that end? Now, I do have a few things when it comes to that. I think that Wayne has this thing that comes with his stardom. It's very similar to Old Dirty, right? I'll say Old Dirty and Flavor Flav to a certain degree. We knew in this case, that these guys were, heightened by other things. And, and this could go down to other rock stars as well. But those are things that added to their rock stardom and their legacy. Like, I remember as a kid just looking at Old Dirty like, yo, Old Dirty's kind of messed up. But it was entertaining, unfortunately. And it was entertaining all the way to the point where it wasn't entertaining anymore. And we can say the same thing for Amy Winehouse, right? Things like people like that. And I think that to a certain degree, people view Wayne in that light. And I saw Wayne, man, I remember seeing Wayne in, this was around Carter 1, Carter 2 era Wayne. And it was at a club on the east side over here in Atlanta. And Wayne killed it. It's a great performance. This had to be like 2004, 5-ish. This is well before Wayne was, huge. This was like a club date. Incredible performer, captivating. And this is before he had all the tattoos on his face and all those things too. So Wayne's always been a dope performer, even without the stuff. But when all of those things got involved and, his rock stardom hit that next level and that next gear, that kind of became a part of his shtick, if you will. So saying all that to say, is the Super Bowl stage just not a place for that kind of performance, right? That kind of unpredictable rock stardom. Is this a situation where if they were going to do the first hip hop solo artist, which is Kendrick Lamar, as the Super Bowl halftime performer, was this going to have to be somebody who, I don't want to say it was clean cut, but somebody who was very, very predictable when it came to their performances? And when I say predictable, I mean in a sense where you're actually going with the program, right? You're going with the set list. You show up to rehearsals. This is not going to be a whole bunch of ad-libbing. Is Kendrick still that choice? And was this important for this performance for there to be the first, for Kendrick to be the first Super Bowl halftime performer? Now, I would also ask this: was this not the opportunity for Jay-Z to go in there and be the first Super Bowl halftime performer as a solo artist? Because honestly, I got Jay as number two. Some got him as number three, and a lot of people got him as number one. If Jay-Z would have went out there and been announced as the Super Bowl halftime headliner performer in New Orleans, do you think people still would have thought that, Wayne deserved that spot over him? And I would honestly say, I don't think people would have even done that. So I think it's very interesting that Jay-Z makes the final decision here, but he made the decision to have Kendrick on that stage instead of himself. Now, I don't know if that was to possibly evade any criticism that would come, because really, let's be honest. I mean, I think that Jay has more, I guess, stadium material than Kendrick does. Now, Kendrick might be, in many people's eyes, a better performer than Jay, but I think Jay has the songs that would actually ignite a Super Bowl audience over Kendrick, in my personal opinion. I mean, it's wild to me when you think about the fact that they didn't even give Dr. Dre and Snoop the stage by themselves. Dr. Dre and Snoop had to share the stage with Mary J. Blige, Eminem, 50 Cent, and each other. And Kendrick gets the stage himself. Now, we know that he's going to probably have some guests come out. And I think that performance that he put on a couple of months ago had a lot to do with him being able to secure this spot. Because if we're being honest, and if we're talking about being able to perform and put together a set and actually, with the breath control and the different scenes and all of those things, the theatrics, Kendrick got that, and he got that in spades. So that's no question. That part can never be questioned. I think the question here is the material strong enough to, captivate that audience? And we're gonna have to see. But again, with this being the decision that Jay made, all the things I just said to say, I think that it wouldn't hurt. Matter of fact, I think it would shut down all of these things and all of this talk that we got on the internet going on if Jay just went out there and explained the decision. And I think that there's a variety of ways that he can explain this decision. He can explain this decision from a standpoint of, listen, we love Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne's a legend. This decision just came down to, performance ability. I mean, you just got to be real about it, because if you're not being real about it, you gotta, people are gonna speculate. We gotta know exactly why this decision was made. And we can't go out there and say Wayne didn't want it, because Wayne went out there and was very vocal about the fact that he was hurt by this decision. DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says, I read these comments and Jay's star power has dwindled over the years. I think more people have Wayne over Jay than we think. And for some people, I think that's the undertone that allowed Jay to make a decision that people feel like he shouldn't have made, right? I don't think there's many people. I mean, obviously, there's a pocket of people that have Kendrick super high, but I would say, to your point, DJ Bruce Almighty, I would say that more people probably have Wayne over Jay than they have Kendrick over Jay. Because again, Wayne's been around for a very long time and he's very impactful to a certain generation. And I don't know. I think that historically, people have seen Jay make competitive moves on the back end and, from the boardroom. And whether this decision was that or not, we'll never know until he speaks on it. But for people who know Jay for being that competitor in the boardroom, I think that this looks like another one of those moves. Now, the other person, now he's an erratic individual at this point, but why hasn't Jay picked Kanye for that stage, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions here. I think that this is the perfect opportunity for Jay to pick himself. But if we want to go with the cultural themes that we have here, and I know that people on the show were saying that, yo, this isn't something where you're bringing out people's hometown, yada yada. But that's kind of what we've seen, and not even just hometown, because obviously Shakira and Jennifer Lopez aren't from Miami. But what we've seen since Jay-Z and Roc Nation have taken over that Super Bowl halftime show is culturally they're doing things that mesh with that market whenever they roll it out. And again, Wayne's been involved in sports heavily. Wayne's been very vocal about the fact that he really wants that Super Bowl halftime stage. And unfortunately, he didn't get it. And I think it's really sad when you see one of your peers in position to be able to make that decision and that decision isn't made. Now, I know a big narrative too is the fact that, whenever, and this is what Jay Electronica was saying, I'm going to paraphrase what he said because he had a lot to say. He was saying that, when other individuals don't make the right decisions, they don't get that kind of heat that Jay gets. And I think these are all valid points. But again, when Jay goes for these positions and goes for these roles, we applaud it because we feel like there's somebody there that understands, and there's somebody that is of the culture who is in that position to make the right decision. We went through this when Jay went to Def Jam, or took over as Def Jam's president. That was a big win for hip hop and a big win for artists in the industry, because now you have somebody who is an artist who is taking on that presidential position, who understands. And now you have somebody who is going to make those decisions from that position. Now, are they going to get it 100% right? No. But what's going to happen, though, when you have somebody who is expected to go in there with that level of a perspective, when they don't make that decision, people are going to call you out for it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what comes with it. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Birdman got some nerve to speak out about how Hove is mistreating Wayne. The wrong messenger. He's the one that stole money from Wayne. Hove gave money to Wayne. Mad Max with the super chat. Shout out to Mad Max in the building early. He says, well, Drake turned down it twice. So how is it Hove is being petty? Well, I mean, listen, man. Again, these are reports. So Elliott Wilson, got love for Elliott Wilson. He's a legend in this journalism game. Started Ego Trip. You know what I'm saying? Was the editor-in-chief of Source Magazine when Five Mics meant so much, and took over XXL. But we gotta remember that Elliott Wilson is Team Hove all day. So I want to hear Drake speak on these things. I would love to hear him speak on the fact that he turned down the Super Bowl performance and why, and it probably had nothing to do with nothing. Truth is, Drake's connection to American football might not be as strong as, some of us. I mean, he is Canadian, who knows? But again, that's something that Drake can tell better than anybody else, because when we have these reporters go out there and these journalists who give us secondhand information, we're just getting pieces of it. And again, this is why I'm asking for Jay to come forth and kind of just, you don't even have to say why you didn't pick Wayne, but speak on why you picked Kendrick Lamar. I think that is the biggest thing. And if you want to address that part of it, because it's New Orleans, sure. New Orleans is one of those places that is culturally rich. And I think that when a decision like this was made in the way that it was made, it's somewhat of a slap in the face to the impact and it appears to be a slap in the face to the impact and the contributions of the state of Louisiana to hip hop. Louisiana gave us a lot of versatility in this game, not only giving us one of hip hop's biggest solo rap acts in Wayne. I think Wayne's probably the biggest solo rap star the South has ever seen. I don't even think that's hyperbole. You know, it is what it is. But when you look at Louisiana and what they added to the game, you got people like, a mystical, mystical got his issues, but as far as like from adding a different element to the game, he did that. Wayne did that. The Hot Boys did that. Cash Money did that. No Limit did that. Boosie did that. Like these guys added something different, not only to the South, but to hip hop. And when you don't celebrate that in that way, or even acknowledge it in that way, it seems like a slight. So I think that to alleviate the whole slight thing and the whole competitive thing, I think Jay needs to say something. And I think the best thing that he could do really is to just speak on why, Kendrick Lamar was chosen in this time and in this frame. And really, I would come from a position of why he was chosen over me. When I say me, I mean Jay. Because Jay could have, I think if Jay would have announced himself as the headliner of this Super Bowl, I don't think anybody would have said anything. I know I wouldn't have. I would have been like, well, great. Let's get ready for a Jay-Z Super Bowl halftime show. Maybe he'll bring out Wayne. See, now that narrative of bringing out Wayne, I don't think that would have been any problem if Jay was doing the halftime show. If Jay was doing the halftime show, those people are doing what? If Jay was doing the halftime show, and if people were like, yo, he might bring out Wayne, I think that would have been great. I think that would have been a huge conversation. And I think that would have been something that nobody would have had a problem with. I think people have a problem with this because I don't think folks feel like Kendrick's catalog is worthy of that stage first. And I'm not talking about his album catalog. We know what his album catalog is like. I think we're talking about the singles, talking about the bangers, the notable records on that big, big stage. Not Like Us is probably Kendrick's biggest song. Can we all agree on that? Not only is it his biggest song, but it's probably the biggest song this year. And that brings me to, well, you know what? I don't even want to go there yet. I don't even want to go there yet. We're going to talk about Kendrick's new record in a second. Kendrick's a great performer. I think we went down that whole road as far as Jay-Z and him making that decision. Did you guys see? Did you guys watch the MTV Video Music Awards last Wednesday? Because I did. LL Cool J did a great performance, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm just keeping it real. Eminem's performance was very good. Yeah. Shout out to LL. Now LL kind of, I don't know, that stage is a little different. I felt a little Method Manism going on with LL and that crowd because, at some point you feel like a certain crowd is like super young. I think that Eminem felt that way too, but the music that Eminem makes, I think that translates or it is for a younger demo, but he's so much older than his younger demo now, it kind of looks weird. Great performance. But I don't know how well it translated. I think people felt like something was missing. I think that Eminem being what he means to MTV and the MTV Video Music Awards, it could actually be said that he is Mr. MTV Video Music Awards, right? I think that that is a legitimate claim. And so he went out there and he performed Houdini. I was gonna say Abracadabra, and then he performed the record with Jelly Roll, and then he rolled out. I think that him opening VMAs, I think that would have been a huge opportunity for him to kind of go through some of you know, his classic MTV moments on stage. You know what I mean? And executing on that. And I don't know if he doesn't want to revisit those records, but even though the Houdini song is kind of revisiting those records anyway, but I think that the stage was wide open for him to go out there and do some of those things. And all in all, I think from an execution and a technical standpoint, it was a really good performance. But I think that based on the content and the material that was performed, I think it kind of left his fans wanting a little bit more. Yeah. The MTV crowd is staged. It is what it is. But I mean, I think it's more so for us viewers at home. I'm gonna keep it real. Y'all know how I feel about award shows. I think award shows are a dead technology, and I think that the fact that the MTV Awards came on Wednesday as opposed to Sunday when MTV was at its height. It lets you know that people really aren't watching award shows like that. But the performances on that show, I can't front. Those are very good performances for the most part. You know, Megan did her thing hosting. Shout out to Megan. You know, her performance was dope too. Those sets that they were doing on the MTV Awards, man, they spent money on them joints, man. Like it wasn't some, disrespect, but like how some of the other award shows are, they actually went out there and broke the bank for some of them sets. I was sitting there looking at the sets like, yo, this is really dope. Katy Perry's performance was awesome. I mean, they did a great job, but even with that being said, I still don't think people are really watching award shows like that. And I think that award shows don't really mean what they used to mean because these outlets aren't playing music anymore. And I think that obviously Eminem went out there to promote his current records, but I do think this was a great opportunity for him to, reach into the back catalog and perform some of those, at least a medley or something. I mean, he's earned that, at least on that stage. And I think what they tried to do is recreate the real Slim Shady performance of 2000, where he had all the clones coming out there. And they did some sort of that, but I think that when you do that, you could have actually performed the record. You know what I'm saying? You could have recreated those moments. You know what I mean? And I think that he has a lot of great moments on that platform and on that stage that, could have been executed properly because his execution was there. He did his thing on that end. Now, I do want to talk about this deluxe that he dropped Friday. Are y'all gonna act like not Kendrick? Y'all gonna act like Two Chains didn't kill him on that record? The record that I'm speaking about is Kyrie and Luca. So, for the people who haven't heard it, Eminem and Two Chains got a record out that is on Eminem's deluxe project that dropped Friday called Kyrie and Luca. And Two Chains comes out there rhyming to Rakim's Move the Crowd. Eric B and Rakim's Move the Crowd to be exact. And when I heard that beat, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, hold up now. So I couldn't wait to hear Two Chains on it because, I think Two Chains bar-wise is super underrated. He killed this joint. And I'm like, okay, well, Mike D's finally about to hear Eminem rhyme over a classic hip-hop track. So I'm like, okay, I want to hear how Eminem's going to sound over Move the Crowd. It gets to Eminem's verse. And, and I'm not trying to be funny, man. Like, usually I expect a beat change. Like, when he had that song with Conway, I knew the beat was going to change. I knew that was going to change. When he did the cypher with Slaughterhouse and all that, I knew the beat was going to change. This one, I really thought he was going to rhyme over Eric B. Like, it wasn't even in my mind that the beat was going to change. He changed the beat. Like, I thought he would never change a Rakim beat. Like, yo, this is your perfect opportunity to prove Mike D wrong and get on this track and spit and go crazy because Two Chains just did it. Two Chains from Atlanta, College Park, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? He not even hailed as a quote-unquote lyricist. Like, he a down south trap rapper, right? He's rapping over Paid in Full. Well, a beat that's on the Paid in Full album. Move the Crowd. Spitting, killing it. Say you'll make Rakim proud and all that. And I was like, okay, well, the super lyricist Eminem is about to jump on this Move the Crowd and go crazy. The beat changed. And it further confirms what we already know and what I've already known for years. You just can't rhyme over that stuff, and it's okay. We just have to take that into account when it comes to hip-hop beats and hip-hop tracks and things that are soulful and that just move you in that way. You just can't catch it. It's been a long time. Not saying that he can never catch it. I guess there was a point in his career where he once was able to catch it. He did that on Dead Wrong. Shout out to that record, but that record's like 25 years old, man. But he can't catch those records, and it's okay. It is okay. But what we won't do is we can't hail you as one of the greatest hip-hop lyricists ever because you can't even rhyme over Move the Crowd. Like, what are we doing? Like, What just to say, man? Struggling to rhyme over the drummer's beat. Like you can't rhyme over the basic loops, man. Like the loops are so important, man. The beat breaks are so important, man. Like this whole foundation is built on the beat breaks. You know why Nas is so freaking great outside of many other things? When it comes to those beat breaks, Mr. Nasir Jones gets busy, man. Like all of that other stuff just goes out the window, right? When the beat breaks come on, the MC comes out. And it gets no more um, MC ready than the beats that are on Paid in Full. You hear Move the Crowd? Oh man, it's time to rhyme, man. I mean, I felt it when I heard that beat come in. I'm like, oh man, Two Chains about to kill this. And I want people to be honest about this too, because we always talk about who killed who on the track or whatever. Nobody is gonna be out here on Twitter talking about how Two Chains killed this man on this record on his own shit. It's Two Chains. This is somebody that many of you guys don't even feel like is a lyricist like that. Now, I do. I've always said that. I think lyrically, Two Chains is extremely underrated. And bar for bar, I've even said on this platform that bar for bar, I've even said on this platform that I got him over Luda. But whatever. So we're gonna act like yes, Titty Boy is hilarious. But we're gonna act like he didn't kill him on that Kyrie and Luca. And both of them tried. Let's keep it real, man. I mean, but are you guys out there gonna be big enough to say, you know what? I'm sorry, Mike D. Mike D wasn't an Eminem hater. All the things that he's saying actually has legitimate merit. He can't rhyme over hip hop tracks. It's okay to be honest about that. We're gonna have a come to Jesus moment here when it comes to some of our favorite MCs on this platform. You know what I've had to do over these years? I don't want to beat a dead horse, but let's call it what it is. I've argued my OGs for years that Andre 3000 was this, Andre 3000 was that. And in my mind, he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest MC that I had ever heard. They was like, man, he can't make a solo record, man. And I fought them on that. Yeah, man, he could do it, man. What you mean? He can't make this record, that record. When I got in front of you guys, got in front of the audience, these platforms, I have to be honest, man. I can't sit here and just argue for the sake of arguing and want to be right and just sit here and be wrong and just try to make my points right. 30 years into a career, Andre 3000, as much as I love him, as much as he's inspired me, and as much as he's changed my life with his craft, him and Big Boy, he doesn't have one single song with 3 verses and a hook, let alone a whole album. So I would be crazy to get here on this platform and say that he can do that. And so what Eminem fans have to understand and have to really come to the realization is he's never rhymed over a Jay Dilla track. He's from Detroit, by the way. He's never rhymed over a Primo track. His guy Royce has made 2 albums with Primo. Primo gets on some of these shady compilations. He's not on those records. Even what we saw on the LL Cool J album, the beat that Q-Tip made with him on it is drastically different than the rest of them. And it's just what it is. And the evidence is there. It's just not able to rhyme over those rhythmic tracks. And now you have a track and an opportunity where Move the Crowd was being played and Two Chains, a guy that many of you people would say is nowhere near the lyricist that Eminem is, was able to get on that record, catch wreck, kill that shit, and just spit straight up flames. And when it came Eminem's time to step to the mic, he had to change the beat. Come on, man. What would you guys say if we were in the studio together? You're a rapper, I'm a rapper. We're playing Move the Crowd, and you rap over Move the Crowd. And when it's my turn to get to the mic, I tell you, I want to change the beat. What? You want to change the beat from Rakim to what? You change it to Shook Ones or something? We're gonna change it to, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna change it to Quiet Storm or something. Like, come on, man. We just gotta face reality, and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to admit that the person that you had in your top five really isn't top five. It's okay. It's okay. And we got further evidence here, guys. Um, with that being said, man, I have a man, there was a post that I wanted to address because somebody really had a problem with, my Kendrick takes from the other day. And I'm gonna go to the video and shout out to Ron. He brought it up to my attention. He was like, man, you should address this. And I wasn't sure if this is from a Stan or if this is from Dave Free. I don't know, but the name Dave was in there. Let me find this real quick. He got the comment. Find, I didn't know you were gonna have a comment there. We'll put it on the screen, but I want to find it here. Okay, here it is. It's very long. Let me get some water before I read this. All right, here we go. This is from a username you don't know, Dave, 2155. He said it's unfortunate that so many people, especially Cornball Mike, lack the ability whatsoever to be objective when discussing certain artists. Mike and Coop took issue with Kendrick a few years ago because they were super butthurt that he took so long to release an album between Damn and Mr. Morale. They actually spoke the utmost highest praise of Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, Pimp Butterfly, and Damn, but eventually started to speak so negatively about Dude for not releasing an album for 5 years. They were so stuck in Doc criticism that even when Mr. Morale came out, they felt so trapped by previous obsessive negativity that all they did was hate and be full of personal bias when judging the music. Fast forward to the infamous beef of 2024, and Mike allowed his previous feelings toward Kendrick to completely warp his feeble mind from all objectivity when judging the music. This is exactly what we are seeing in the criticism of the newest song. This Joker is so consumed with his little ego and needing to prove to his listeners that he is correct with his previous negative opinion of Dot that he can't even grasp the content of Dot's music anymore. The phenomenal content of this John and Kendrick putting a microphone on the parasite affecting the culture was just blatantly misrepresented by Mike as his only agenda when he's given his thoughts on the track was to connect the dots of previous statements. This is the type of song that a man who claims is cut from the true cloth of hip hop is supposed to champion. Mike, you're supposed to celebrate when Kendrick is attempting to do for this beloved culture, what Kendrick is attempting to do for this beloved culture of hip hop. Excuse me. He is refusing to let vultures come in and poison the culture with inauthenticity, microwave music with zero meaning or skills, and misrepresent what the genre of music was and should still be for Black America. Kendrick is taking a baton from the Andres, Nas's, Tribes, Wu, NWA, etc., and furthering the message that talks about the constructs of society for Black America while not just allowing vultures to swoop in and profit while diluting the product. I'm almost done, guys. I'm so sick of people ignoring truth out of bias and some allegiance to one camp or past statements that they automatically call someone a stan or a D rider just for speaking their mind on the subject. I am not a Kendrick stan. Okay, he's not a Kendrick stan. I am not saying that Mike and everyone else needs to think that every single thing that Kendrick says and does should be worshipped and every song is the dopest ish ever. What I am saying is the music should be evaluated with an open mind and not labeled as the best or worst ish ever before even listening to it just based off the name attached to it. Everything I just said is about the fake A hip hop reporters and his false evaluation of everything Kendrick does is aimed at the fact that 100% confidence that he is fully compromised by his past statements, that he is missing out on the monumental moment for the culture. Y'all really need to be better and stop allowing personal bias to affect your minds and cloud your judgment. Mike, you are a fraud and a complete disappointment to the music and the artist that you claim means the world to you. You let the song and its entire meaning go directly over your big A head and have once again failed to do your job objectively and I promise it is ruining any chance you have of growing your platform. All right. That's a lot said, man. He was cooking me. Okay, there's a lot to cover there. First of all, I respect the fact that someone's been watching, the channel this long. I appreciate that. I appreciate that level of love, I guess. A lot of the things that you were saying, were somewhat contradictory. First, no, hold on. Let me go back. I want to start here. For people who feel like very were hard on Kendrick, pause, when it comes to the critiques, you're right. Because I've watched Kendrick, grow from great artist and continuously being, growing in his era and make great albums and put together great albums. But we sat here on Twitch when we played To Pimp a Butterfly, which I always speak highly of. It doesn't translate for everyone in that same manner. And those are things that we got to acknowledge as well. Now, saying all that to say, even with those levels of disconnect, Kendrick has been rated by Billboard. Not saying that Billboard is the end all be all. Kendrick's been rated as like the #2 rapper of all time. And when you get those high marks and those high ratings, yes, we're going to critique very harshly. Now, when we're talking about this 5-year break, this 5-year break's really nothing to sneeze at. I mean, I had no problem with the fact that it was a quote unquote 5-year break. But I also feel like if you're talking about running shit and being the king in this culture and in this genre and being that guy, taking a 5-year break from 2017 to 2022, it's just too much happening in those moments to be able to take those breaks. And that goes for anybody. Like when Rakim, he left the game in 92 and came back in 97. He left on top of the game in 92. Was Rakim still the greatest in the game in 96? No, other guys was around doing their thing. Like, it's hard to sit there and say you hold your place when All Eyes on Me is out here, when Ready to Die and Life After Death is out here, when Illmatic's out here, when Wu-Tang dropped, when Tribe dropped. Like, the game is different. And when you look at a 5-year break, those are the things that I'm talking about. I say all the time, Method Man's missing an album in 96. To take a break from 94 to 98, so many things happened. Like, the game changed. And if we're talking about Kendrick in terms of 2017 and 2022, everything that I've always spoken of and on this platform and on A2HH Live while it was happening was the fact that in 2020, we got a surge of a lot of music and a lot of dope music too. You know what I'm saying? Like, Freddie was dropping heat. You know what I'm saying? The whole Griselda camp was dropping heat. Nas and Hit Boy was dropping heat. Black Thought was dropping heat. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just to name a few. There's a lot of stuff going on. So yes, when you're not active and you're supposed to be the strongest in your generation musically, yes, we have to speak on that. We're not just going to sit here and say, yeah, you got your spot and you ain't even out here putting material out. Now, when Mr. Morale comes out, I think I praised Mr. Morale's writing. You know, it wasn't me who was really sitting here harping on the project like it was just trash, yada yada. I think it is his weakest project. I will stand on that, but I will say this: his writing on there in many moments was next level. But if you want to sit here and act like Mr. Morale is top of the top, or it's on the level of, you know what I'm saying, some of those efforts that I was naming before, that's just being dishonest. And I think the person who wrote this, I get it. You say you're not a Kendrick stan, but where you're saying that we're overcritical because it's Kendrick, you're overpraising and over sensitive, if you will, because it is Kendrick. Take this person's name away from it and then put somebody else's name on it and see how you feel about the record. Do you think that the stuff that Kendrick was making in recent memory is more brilliant than some of the stuff that Lupe was making in recent memory? Because really, if we sat there and said, you know what, um, the album that Lupe made last year, let's take Lupe's name off of it and put Kendrick's name on it. You're going to say it's one of the most brilliant pieces of work that's happened in the past couple of years. We do that when it comes to Kendrick. So yes, do we over exaggerate sometimes on the other end? Maybe, but that's because we have to. Because if we don't, and if we don't sit here and try to balance this scale out, anything this man puts out, people are going to hold to such a high regard that it's going to overrate it. And I hate to say this because I love Kendrick. I think Kendrick's incredibly talented, incredible MC, incredible album maker. He's had a great career and continuing to have a great career. But in many aspects, the mainstream media and many of you fans have overrated Kendrick. And I say that because Euphoria was out for a freaking week or two, and you got publications, major publications, ranking Euphoria as a better diss record than The Bridge Is Over, which is insane. Insane. How could you even do that after a couple of weeks? You got a record that has lasted the test of time and has lasted over 30 years as the Hallmark diss record that took down a whole borough that Nas had to come and reconstruct with Illmatic, and you got Euphoria that's a couple of weeks old over it. That's overrating somebody. Putting Kendrick Lamar #2 MC all time over Nas, over Tupac, is overrating him. Over Rakim, it's overrating him. It just is what it is. And for us to sit here and try to balance out the scales and be somewhat objective and somewhat critical at certain points, I don't think it's overzealous on any level. Call out the overzealous on the other end of it. OG Weston with the super chat says, Mike, your critiques of K. Dot was valid. No album in 5 years, and you come back with Mr. Mid. However, this has been K. Dot's year so far, and you're not letting up. What can Kendrick do to lighten it? This is the thing. This is the thing. I gave Kendrick props for the fact that he went out there and put out 4 records in like 4 days. I thought that was amazing. That's something that I didn't expect from him based on the fact that he doesn't make music frequently. Are we going to sit here and act like the hillbilly stuff doesn't exist? Doesn't exist? We can't. When we look at the hillbilly stuff, we look at Mr. Morale, we look at what he did with the Black Panther stuff. Boom. It took, and call me OVO Mike, whatever you want. I ain't even a Drake fan like that. But the proof is it took Drake to jump out here and come at this dude for him to really put together some dope ass hip hop records. Now, you want to talk about letting up or lightening up? Put out some records that ain't about this dude that are dope. Let's just do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not even saying like let up off of them or whatever. Make records, man. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And I know they still going to the war of words. This is kind of like, what Jay and Nas were doing after Ether and Takeover or Over. You had little jabs here and there. Boom, boom. Now, Jay put out the Blueprint too. And Nas put out, Godson. Were those whole albums about each other? No. Jay addressed Nas on the Blueprint 2, the song, and then he went about his business on the rest of the album and made records because we know Jay can make records. He doesn't need the other guy or his adversary to get him heated enough to make dope records. Now I will give Kendrick this. He really dislikes Drake a lot, and the fact that he stepped up to the moment and embraced the moment and went all out, I do respect that. And as an MC, I do respect that. But at the end of the day, I also have to acknowledge that the music wasn't going in that direction before he was tested on that level. Y'all heard me on this platform after he dropped that verse for Like That. That was an exciting moment for hip hop because he was, you got to keep it real, guys. He was reinvigorated. He was. When you heard Kendrick on Like That, even the Kendrick Lamar fans have to admit, this is not the Kendrick that we heard on Mr. Morale. And you had to admit that, that was an exciting moment. Like, okay, K-Dot's back. It almost felt like, you know what I'm saying, when Common went out there on the College Dropout, I was like, okay, well, he's not on the Electric Circus thing anymore. And I like Electric Circus, but it's different when your artist is back in tune. But let me get back to this person's comments. There's never been a point where I feel like my opinions, I have to lean on a wrong opinion just to be right. I think that I've even gotten on this platform before and said, you know what? I picked Drake to win this because I didn't think that Kendrick was going to come out, be able to keep up with the pace. I was wrong. I think I conceded to that because when you're wrong, you're wrong. It is what it is. And Kendrick went out here and won this thing. And, one of the things that I don't think is great is the fact that, he kind of had to falsify some things, but he still was able to recover from that because Not Like Us, was able to drop before Drake could even, respond to anything. I think Drake should have responded in a way where he was like, look, get some truthful information, dog. But when Drake responded with the Heart Part 6 or whatever that is, he sounded like he lost. And, and you can't win like that. So I got to give Kendrick his props on that. It is what it is. But no, if you feel like my critiques are coming from a different place, they're not. I don't have any emotional attachment to any of the artists out there in that sense. And, all of these things are opinion. And many of my opinions, if not all of my opinions, are based on just knowing the music, knowing what my ears are hearing. And if I'm not excited about, some of the stuff that's being put forth, I'm just not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love To Pimp a Butterfly. And I saw this when we were doing our Twitch. I love To Pimp a Butterfly. And when I listen to it, I love it. It excites me, right? But while playing for others, it doesn't excite people like that. And I can't make people excited about something just because I like it. You know what I'm saying? And if you like Kendrick's new record like that, more power to you. That's what's up. And and if it's coming from a conceptual, technical place that's incredible, that's awesome. But I get what he's doing and what he stands for, and I think that's awesome. But that alone is not going to make me love it. You mentioned NWA in your comment. NWA came from all kind of negative places, but we loved it because the Sonics were there and the Chakras were there, and it hit in a certain tone, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that that people make that is wholesome and full of concepts, it's not going to be something that moves everybody, and that's all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but again, I thought the record was just okay. I think at this point, I know Kendrick is better than just making these, I don't want to say stale records, but these records that I didn't think had that much of a point. I thought this record was basically his response to the criticism of the fact that he's headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. I think that's where that was coming from. But I mean, I think this is a record that, again, I'm probably not going to play like that. And it's cool that he's coming from that place. But again, I think he's covered that. I think he's covered the fact that he's conflicted. I think he's covered the fact that he's morally sound. I don't know if he's trying to, overly convince us, because this is what I will say. I don't think we've ever seen somebody who is so wholesome or grounded, if you will, get celebrated by the mainstream to this degree. And I don't know if Kendrick's trying to convince the core or whoever that, you know what, even though I'm being celebrated like this, I'm not, going to the dark side. I'm still who I am. Maybe that's why we keep getting these double down records and all that. But at this point, man, whatever, man, just make some dope records, some cool records, shit we can jam to. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, though, when we talk about numbers and we talk about actually hitting the masses, it took going back and forth with Drake for that to happen, because the Mr. Morale stuff didn't do it. And that's just the God honest truth. And that's not me sitting here, trying to be overcritical or anything. Like, he didn't get this kind of reaction or buzz when Mr. Morale dropped. I think that Silent Hill's a dope record with Kodak Black, but they didn't do it Not Like Us did. It didn't. You know what I'm saying? And I think when we're being honest about it and we look back at it and we look back at his illustrious career and illustrious catalog, we're gonna have to say that Mr. Morale was more of a down period and a down point musically, because those records just didn't hit like that. I got Siobhan in the room, man. Me and Siobhan had an argument the other day when he was trying to tell me that the Blueprint 2 was a success. I would like to actually speak on that at some point, man. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. What's good, Mike?
Your volume's not on. You on mute?
Hold up. Let me get that right.
I can't hear you. Y'all hear Siobhan?
You can't hear me. It shows my
volume. No. My bad. My volume was down the whole time. I had my volume down the whole time on my computer. I'm sitting here talking the whole time. I'm thinking, since people hear me, my volume's up. Yo, what's good with you, man? How you doing?
Hey, yo, Envy, we live?
Now time to say some crazy stuff, right?
I'm on.
I mean, was I tripping about Let the Party Die? Like, what were your thoughts on the record?
Just to revisit what I said earlier, sonically, I can see how a lot of people don't like it. Like beat wise, like I said, I don't think we're listening to that in the ears that it should be listened to. I feel like it was a record just addressing just the people, just sending a message to the people that's been critical of them or who wanted to pick sides and put out a certain narrative in that in-between time during that beef. And I at this point, I'm trying to figure out, where does he win with some of you guys? Because when he's not making music, you guys are critical. When he does make music, then you guys try to pick apart something to criticize him on. And these days with the streaming era, I feel like successful music is subjective, because Mr. Morale won Grammy for Best Album of the Year, Rap Album of the Year. But to you're saying that it didn't do nothing. So the powers that may be said otherwise. So
yeah, he seems like a real industry darling, and it is a really interesting dichotomy. Hold on 1 second. Let me get this super chat. DJ Bruce Almighty says, Mike, I rock with you. You're one of my favorite podcasters, but some of that is accurate. But you're also welcome to your opinion. But it does seem like JM and Kendrick get harsh critiques. I love Jay, man. I guess I just try. I say things. All right, I'll say this. With those three individuals, I say things that most people don't say about them, because these are three people that get held so high and don't get critiqued at all. And I think whenever these individuals get critiqued, it sounds weird to people because nobody in mainstream media critiques them. Now, as far as Kendrick and what do we want from him? I mean, I've always thought that Kendrick is a dope album maker. I looked at the quote unquote big three as, I mean, they all do different things well, right? I think Drake's the hit maker. I think Kendrick's the album maker. And in my opinion, I always thought Kendrick was the spitter too. Like I really gravitate to his flow and his approach to the mic more than even so J. Cole. But I think that J. Cole's probably, I guess for most people, and correct me if I'm wrong, the overall like MC, he approaches things in more of a traditional way, MC wise. If we're talking about the three of those guys and how they do things differently, but I've always looked at Kendrick as the guy who makes those albums, right? And I think that the dichotomy here is Kendrick's an album maker in a single era, right? And I think that's always what is so different when it comes to him. And I've always seen our greats have to adjust to where the game is. Jay had to do it, right? Jay, you know, as the lyricist he was, he even had to quote unquote dumb down his flow to be able to adjust to what was going on in the game, adjust to the production changes that were going on. When Swiss was hot, all right, I got to be able to adjust to that. When Tim's hot, I got to adjust to that. I feel like when it comes to Kendrick, he's a great album maker, but he's never really had to make those adjustments. To be honest, Not Like Us is one of the few times I've ever seen him make an adjustment to where the game is at and do something different from what his traditional style is. And it worked. You know what I'm saying? But see, what happens is when it comes to him, he does his thing, and just him doing his thing, similar to Eminem, is enough. Like you ain't got to adjust. You ain't got to do nothing. Like Eminem doesn't have to adjust to anything. He does what he does, and somehow that puts him on the same level as a Jay-Z who has had to adjust to everything.
Well, here's the thing, man. When you're speaking of the people of the Jays, even your favorite Nas, or you talk about, even if you want to talk about the big three, we see that everybody takes different approaches to music, and we can clearly see what each approach was. We can see what Drake's approach was. We can see what Kendrick's was. We can see what J. Cole's was. For me, Drake makes music that's more pleasing to the consumer as far as casual listeners and people who just want to have fun with the music, that like music that sounds good. It really doesn't have any depth when you really look at it. And I don't care what nobody say about that. It just lacks depth. But does that take away from the fact that it's good music? No.
Time out. Do you even, and I to some degree I agree with that, but do you not think that some of the stuff that, the Marvin's Room and things like that Drake approaches, you don't think those records like have some level of depth? Because he does do it, but not from a socially conscious way. It's more from a emotional way, if you will.
You're using Marvin's Room as an example of depth in his music.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's not just radio stuff. I'll put it that way.
No, it's pleasing. It's pleasing to the ears. It's pleasing to a younger demographic, demographic that likes to hear music that just sounds good, man. It's just like he knows how to make hits. He's a hit maker, man. Like, but as far as the depth of his music, it's like the subject matter is not anything that's pushing the line or pushing the boundary or really about much, I would say. As far as Kendrick, I agree with you as far as Mr. Rao. It's not my favorite Kendrick album. It's not. But I don't shit on it because there's content there. It's not a bad album content wise. Now, if we want to talk about instrumental wise, beat wise, then I can see how it's not pleasing to people. But here's the thing I think that people don't give Kendrick credit for. I think Kendrick has the control to make whatever type of music he wants if he wanted to and be successful at it. He chooses the lane he goes into for a reason. And I think I said this before. Every album is a theme. It's about something. There's subject matter for every album that he does. It's a theme. Even when you get to the Black Panther soundtrack or when you get to the stuff that he did with his cousin, is like the Hillbillies joint. And I just want to say, like, every project has subject matter. It has a theme, bro. Like, and when he goes and he do a track like Let the Party Die, he's speaking to people that has the opinions like you, Mike, that's overcritical of it and saying the things that they say towards the music. And there was a message in it. Like I said, I think it was a response. I don't think it was nothing that he's trying to go mainstream with or pick up a hit for. It's just addressing that. People are like, well, we want to hear music. We're not talking about the other guy. Like, well, let's be honest, man. We know this guy is going to have an album coming. Like I said, he's not going to do a Super Bowl and not have an album coming. The music
now, that I agree with 100%. And, and this new album, it's shine time. Like, for the critics, for the people who are fans, obviously, I think that, in my personal opinion, I think that artists have a obligation to their core base, right? And I think that that's number one. Everybody else is secondary, because everything else is casual for the most part. I don't know how big he's an interesting artist in the sense where I don't know how big his core is, because I think a lot of the things when it comes to him are really inflated. Being ranked number 2 all time, by Billboard, yes, people are going to start being critical of you. You know what I'm saying? When you're a West Coast MC and you get put over the likes of Pac and Cube and shit, even Snoop to some degree, yes, people are going to start being critical. And that's not the time to kind of fold up and be like, why are you being so critical? That's the time to show up and be like, okay, this is why I'm that. You know what I mean? And I
here's the
think
thing, Mike.
this new album is supposed to be that moment. Like when people were saying that LeBron is this, and this, he went out there and proved why he was better than certain players. And I mean, that's just what you got to do.
So I just want to say this, Mike, because I get this, the criticism of MCs, and I really think partially some of this comes from people being more concerned with the person and not the music. And that influences their opinion about the artist's music, because they have this idea of, oh, Drake's this, Drake's that, Kendrick this, that. And it takes away from them just enjoying the music. If you take the theatrics aside and you just put the music out there, we know what's pleasing to the ear. We know what's content wise, has some depth. So I feel like when you take the personal bias out of it, if you take the idea of who you think this person is, like a lot of people say Kendrick's born, he doesn't have this, have that. But these are the same people that say, well, Drake's just social media, he's this or that. Like those opinions are influencing their idea of the music. Like I said, Mike, it goes into our argument. It's funny that you criticize Kendrick for the stuff that he does, but you put Nas to where you put him. And like I told you, his trajectory is somewhat more of a Nas field than a Jay's field. As when you put Drake and Jay, he kind of follows the Jay blueprint as far as angles that they're taking the music. Now, I'm not saying comparing the content or what sounds, there's all four of them make four different types of music. But what I'm saying is, if you're talking about somebody who's following the trajectory of certain artists, I feel like Kendrick kind of fills the shoes more going to a Nas lane more so than Drake's following that J lane, that hip hop star, that taking everything that comes with it like that. As far as the Nas lane is the art, the message, and that's the difference. So when you're comparing the two, you're gonna have people that's gonna have subjective views on who they feel is the best. I hate the hip hop list because it's always subjective, and I think some of it not only has politics in it, but it's really based on people being prisoners of the moment, and that's what we can't do. We'll talk on these subjects, and we can have our personal opinions, be subjective to it, but at the end of the day, I think the music is what stands the test of time, and that's what's the real answer here. If you put these artists up there and throughout the test of time, ask me whose music is going to stand that for 10 plus years.
I agree.
Held up there. So when I look at a Kendrick body of music, you look at a Drake's body of music, and we look at this 10 years from now, let's see what is going to be what's more appreciated throughout the time and not being prisoners of the moment.
Yeah. Lord with the super chat says, just know the West Coast doesn't appreciate the Kendrick slander. I mean, listen, it's no slander. I think this is the thing, man. Whenever we're critiquing a certain artist, there's no slander. Now, this is what I will say, and I've always said this for people who watch the show. Like, when it comes to being a lyricist, Drake and Kendrick aren't even on the same page, in my opinion. Like I said, even when this whole thing started, what Kendrick needs to do is out-rap Drake, because when it comes to rapping, he can't out-rap Kendrick. I mean, that's just what it is. Now, when we're talking about, I guess the man, where do we go here? Yes, when you said the Nas and Kendrick thing, right? I've seen Nas have to adjust to the game, for better or for worse, right? He made You Owe Me. That happened. He made If I Ruled the World. I've never really seen Kendrick have to adjust to the times. I think that, I know. I have Nas' place where he is because of what he's done from a longevity standpoint, what he's done with his pen, and how creative of an MC and a writer that he's been over decades of time, right? He never really even took those breaks either. And I think also when you think about all of the unreleased things that Nas has had over his career, I mean, it just is what it is. He is he's the one, right? I was more entertained by, the output that Jay had. And I don't even think that Jay and Nas are a great comparison to, Drake and Kendrick,
Nah,
because
yeah, but
Jay
if
is
we're talking about
incredible.
trajectory
Like,
of
when we talk about lyricism, Jay's way more comparable to Nas than Drake can ever be to Kendrick as a lyricist.
I
But
agree.
on the flip side of things, I think as a hit maker, I don't think that Kendrick's in the same arena as Drake. And I think as an album maker, I don't think that Drake's in the same arena as Kendrick. Um, Now, I think that there are a lot more things comparable when it comes to Jay and Nas. And I think it's easier too, because we're just going off of the MCing. Because one could listen to Jay and say, I think he's a better MC than Nas, and vice versa, right? I think that when it comes down to those two guys, to me, I use the tiebreaker as the output and the longevity and who's been able to, be great for longer, because I gave Jay that same credence in the 2000s. I was like, when Jay was like, never been a nigga this good for this long, this hood, this hot, this pop, this strong, I was giving him that edge over Nas because of how great he continued to be. So now I'm just doing the same thing when it comes to Nas, right? But I agree with you when we talk about Kendrick from a substance standpoint. But my thing is, when we combine everything and we combine all the greats, I think Kendrick stands alone in his era, in my personal opinion. And I think this battle has furthered that notion. But when we start blending him with other eras, where does he stand, right? And I don't know. Well, I'm not even gonna say I don't know. I don't think he stands at number 2 all time.
Yeah.
I think when you do those things, and I agree with you. I hate the list because the lists are filled with all kind of agendas. And I think that when you put somebody like Kendrick, who isn't done with his career by no means, number 2 all time behind Jay-Z, you kind of put a target on his back.
Yeah, and then I kind of feel like with these lists, like I said, it's a prisoner of the moment thing, because we haven't even let Kendrick's music really age. These artists are still active. When we're making these lists and we're talking about greatest of all time, there's so many factors. We're talking about a streaming era versus going out there and buying physical copies. We're talking about a different era, how music was consumed or put out, and the ways they were put out. Like you said, we're in a single era. And does albums matter to people still? That's a question. For me, I would say yes. I still want to hear a body of work. Anybody could score a hit. We done seen people score hits off social media, off TikTok. So yes, I think me and how I measure artists is by their albums. And
what is an album in the streaming era, though? I mean, because when you think about people's listening behaviors, if you will, or listening habits in the streaming era, it's not the same as the album era where you putting in a CD or you putting on a piece of vinyl and you really have to sit there and listen to it. Now you can just go, from artist to artist, whatever. So more times than not, people aren't going to just sit there and listen to an album from beginning to end unless they make a conscious effort to do so. In the album making era, you had to do that, right? You put in a CD, more times than not, you got to let this ride or at least skip through there. So how does that change how albums are being made? Like, because now you got to keep people's attention, and how do you do it?
This is how it is, man. I think it depends on the listener, really, because for me, like I said, I care about still hearing albums. I want to hear what your body of work sounds like, but you have some people that create their playlists just off singles, and that's what they're listening to in their house. That's what they're listening to in the car with their friends. That's what they're listening to on pre-games in college. I always knew what was hot and what was not, from me being in that university standpoint, being at HBCU. You have different people from different cities pulling in what music is popping in their region, and it comes here and it's just popping. That's how we discovered a lot of these artists. Right. I think that what's happening now with the internet and what's happening with the streaming era is, number one, we can't identify where artists are from anymore. And people, we can act like that doesn't matter. It does. Being from a region, it matters. How people perceive the music to an extent.
Yeah, for sure.
Visuals don't mean anything for music no more.
Nope.
People put out videos all the time on YouTube. Videos used to be a selling point. So You don't have that. You don't have countdown music shows no more where we're
Yep.
we're getting to see a preview of this music. So we're going based off like this streaming era where something hit the internet and there's just opinions. And opinions are coming so fast. And we're even suspect of this, Mike.
We're a part of this. Yeah.
We're part of this. That
Yeah.
when something comes out, we're quickly to give a take. Like we're not sitting with the music. We're just want to get the first of the reaction. I think in a way, and us being suspects of it, it kind of kills the culture as well, because we have everybody that are waiting to listen to music just to critique it and not listening to it to consume what's being said. Man, it's like you're just listening to be a music reviewer. You know, that's killing it. Like I said, the internet era, man. Now these days, people are not looking to make music that means anything, even if it's even if it's not meant to be deep. If this is going to be a dance track, you should approach this like, I'm gonna make the best dance track I ever like out of anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want this. Like the effort is not being put there because social media and the internet has made it look so easy. Like you can just go in there and you could just create something and then it could pop on TikTok or something like that. And it made it so easy that the way music is being consumed is like, I don't know. And that's where we find ourselves and what we're in when we have a thing like the big three and everybody else. I look at music and these rappers like in tiers. You'll have Drake, Kendrick, and Cole. Even before the beef, it's Drake, Kendrick, and Cole. And then anybody else falls underneath that. And when you start breaking down those layers of rappers, it'll make you think like, man, we're in a bad place in music, man. We're in a bad place in hip hop. When we really look at it like that, that the fact that the main subject is.
Let me ask you this. What did you think about LeCrae? I mean, since we're speaking about other MCs, what did you think about LeCrae's response?
I didn't think nothing of it, man. I like this is much respect to LeCrae, but it's just like it was cool.
I mean,
I didn't take nothing from it. I'm just gonna be honest with you, Mike, and I'm not saying because the content wasn't there. It was just like it just didn't do nothing for me. It didn't move me. You know what I'm saying?
You know, this is the thing, and I think this is the overall theme of this show and what's going on. I feel like there's a lot of uninspired things going on, and that's not even just from the musicians. I think that's from the podcasters as well, the people who are reviewers. You know, there's a different energy that goes on when you hear an album and you're excited about it, and you're like, "Yo, man, I want to go talk to the people about this," as opposed to when you hear an album, he's like, I gotta go talk about this. You know what I'm saying? And I think that music's in a place right now, and possibly because the internet's done a lot of great things. We wouldn't be here right now in this capacity if it weren't for the internet and the reach that we have. But I also think that there's a level of uninspired nature that comes with that. And I think that an artist like Kendrick needs to be inspired to, put forth his best effort. And I don't think he's been inspired for a long time. I think he was inspired with this beat. And, and that's nothing wrong with that. Because, yes, when it's time to step to the mic and he knows that this is something that he's wanted for a while, he was inspired to do that. And you can tell, you know what I mean? And hopefully with this new effort, and you're right, when I put myself in Kendrick's place, right? Mm-hmm. If I put myself in Kendrick's place, like you said, what do I want from Kendrick? I wouldn't really even know how to approach this new album, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, you can't go out there and do more They Not Like Us stuff. Obviously, Mr. Morale was something that was from the heart, and you really can't duplicate stuff like that either. You know what I'm saying? And it was well received by some. It's kind of like a 444. It was well received by many and not as well received by others. And I don't think Kendrick's used to that. He's used to all of his stuff being received, critically acclaimed. That's what he is. He's the critically acclaimed MC of this era. But I think what's also somewhat of a injustice to him and his catalog and his growth is that the mainstream media is never going to criticize anything he puts out. You know what I'm saying? Like everything he puts out, they're going to find a way to praise it and make sure that they're not critical of anything that, might fall short. And I've said that even with J. Cole fans. Like when J. Cole fans always praise the fact that he had no features, he produced everything himself. It's like, yo, y'all not doing him any favors right now. You know what I'm saying? Like his stuff could be better. And you're getting him content with where he is. And I think that they stunt Kendrick's growth in that way. And hopefully Kendrick listens to the critiques and finds ways to be better from that. And I'm not sitting here saying like, yo, I criticize Kendrick so he could be better because there's nobody else out there criticizing him. But yes, it does come from somewhat of that place where I want hip hop to have better, more inspired music. And if we sit here and tell an MC that, you know, a 3.5 mic effort is a 4.5 mic effort just because of who they are, I don't think that we're helping the genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like when we're breaking down, even assessing music, and we're talking about Kendrick, in particular, right?
Right.
My only question is to the critiques of him, what do you want from him as an artist? You know, it was a question of how often he drops music. Well, he proved he could drop a music in days span. You know, he proved that. Okay, well, the sound or whatever, then he drops Not Like Us. Then it's like he's giving music. Then they're like, oh, can he make music without speaking about this guy? It's like every time he does something that's critical, somebody finds another thing that's about it.
Like he doesn't do interviews. That was one of my critiques.
Yeah, like come on,
you know, like can he make an album with The Alchemist? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I think that with this Super Bowl performance coming up, because he's already proven that he's an incredible performer. I think we're just looking for a great album, right? And he's already proven that he can do a great album and make a great album. But, you know, like Phil Jackson said, like, you know, even when you perform a successful task, you gotta perform it again, right? Like Kanye West, incredible career. I think at this point in his career, he still needs to prove that he can make a great album in this stage. We know that you can make a great album in your 20s. We know that you can make a great album in your 30s. But I think this is the real testament of greatness when you're able to perform at certain points in your career. And those are the things that make it very problematic when we have people like Tupac and Big super high, because they didn't live to the point where they would have to face these days and face the point where they were chasing the greatness of their past. You know what I mean? Like that's another level of greatness right there. When you have to go out there and not only outdo what you did in your quote unquote prime, but now, you know, people have heard a lot from you. They've heard many of the stories. At this point in Jay-Z's career, like it would be very, very difficult for Jay to come out with a song that I would feel like is one of his greatest songs ever, because he's made so many great ones. You know what I mean? And we've heard so many stories, we've heard so much. It's hard to, you know, when he did 44 Fours, and this was deep in his career, almost 20 years. Well, was it 20 years in his career? 15 years? It felt like it because he had so much material. It was very impressive because we had already heard so much from him, and this was something new, and this was something different, and this was something that was like, yo, where did this come from? Him and Nas seem to be the only ones able to do that at these stages in their careers, and that's special. And I think that at this point, to answer your question, what we want from Kendrick, or what is expected based on who he is and the barriers that he has broken, is a palatable, great album. You know, and not saying that we need a Good Kid, Mad City. I think even a Damn level album that fits with the times. To me personally, I think Damn is the album that kind of gives everybody, including him, what they want. I think that was the one time, you know, Good Kid, Mad City is a special time. That's your debut. You hitting the world like an asteroid, man. That's something different. You can't duplicate the Get Rich or Die Tryings, the Doggy Styles, the Good Kid, Mad Cities, the Illmatics. You can't duplicate that. So that doesn't even count. But I think when it came to Damn, he gave everybody what they expected, what they wanted, hit-wise. Lyrically, he was, you know what I'm saying, where he needed to be on there. I think that's the standard.
And, you know, this goes back, and I just want to revisit a point about criticism, because don't get me wrong, when you put your art out there, it's to be criticized, whether good or bad. People are going to criticize it. And for me, I think Kendrick is not addressing like reasonable criticism. I think it's addressing people who are aligning themselves with certain individuals to push a narrative that goes beyond the criticism. Because these same personalities are personalities who can't lie and say that Kendrick hasn't made any music that appealed to them any type of way. Let's not act like that. So when they're taking sides and they're aligning themselves with others, it doesn't seem genuine. It seems like, damn, what favor do you want from Drake that you dick riding him this bad? You know what I'm saying?
We're talking about academics, right? I mean,
it's not just academics, bro. It's like academics and Maul are one of his biggest supporters, right? Like they're gonna corral everything it says. They're gonna push a narrative for it. Drake can have his back against the rope, and they're going to still find it good about Kendrick or push a narrative that's kind of gonna further that. But then you also have to remember, around that time, Kendrick dropped the response, and Gilly got on there in this car and was like, "Oh, this is like down, and like this is trash." Then you had Cam and Mace have their takes, and then you have, and at some point, is it like, are you saying this because you truly feel like you don't like this, or is it because that's your guy and you have to back your guy? So the assessment of it is not fair. It's more so of, you guys are aligning with this guy to push whatever narrative for whatever you want for him. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair. And people have been compromised, and it's very clear. And I think sometimes, you know, through all of the individuals out here who are compromised, it's really difficult for the viewers and the fans to actually find the real critiques. And even if you are critiquing and you're really coming from a place where you feel like you're not compromised, people even feel like you're compromised with your text. Take the top of the super chat says, albums, especially solo albums, are overrated. Most of my favorite songs by my favorite rappers, Nip, Ross, Sean Price, G Unit, Dipset, Fab, Wayne, Drake, etc., are not on solo albums. So albums, especially solo albums, are overrated. That's my favorite. Okay. I think it's my opinion. I think groups make better albums than solo acts, but that's just my personal opinion. It's just a lot of people involved in group efforts. Well, I do think that we got microwave takes along with microwave music. And I think that's something that hasn't really been addressed in the podcast era either. I think that a lot of us sometimes, and that's why, I don't rush to get on here all the time, and no disrespect to anybody who does. But I don't want it to feel like you said, a prisoner of the moment type thing, because a lot of the times it ends up being that. And, sometimes you got to sit with the music, and we don't have the opportunity to sit with the music anymore because people are rushing to, their platform to give a quick critique just so they can be first. And there is awards in being first in the algorithm. Obviously, you got to strike while the iron's hot. But what does that do for the music?
So this is why I can say there's a difference between criticism and then somebody just not liking it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that there's some people that are just not going to like Kendrick's music. Just like there's going to be some people that don't like Drake, that don't like Jay, that don't like anybody's music. You have that fair right as a consumer to say, I didn't really feel this. And then revisit it and say, okay, this song has grown on me. And then there's people that change their opinion due to group thing. They'll get on the internet, see what the reactions are there, and they don't want to be going against the popular opinion. So they'll align themselves with that just to forever to be a part of whatever in crowd is going on there. So yeah, like I said, when you're an artist and you put your art out there, it's to be critiqued. Not everybody is going to think this is the greatest thing on earth. Some people are. And then there's going to be people that don't have a genuine idea that's a frame in their mind of their own opinion is going based off what the wave is, what the popular crowd is. Like I said,
you got some people who are just going to down somebody because they're, let's just be honest, either paid to or want to be paid to.
Yeah. So with that Kendrick, and like I said, what he was addressing on that track is more so the people that's like behind trying to push agenda to try to have a guy win, to try to put their guy on top because their guy lost. And I think that's the issue here. But like I said, man, I do think that we spend a lot of time with the microwave takes. We do. The reactions are there. Like I said, that beef, you had to be there. I was on a plane during that time, and I remember getting off the plane. Oh man, Kendrick dropped a new disc. Oh, Drake dropped a new. So it was a moment. It was a moment.
It was a moment for
so
sure.
If there wasn't a time to have those reactions, I could see how that would be a thing. But overall, though, when we're assessing music, how artists put it out, it's like people listen to just go run to the social media and give their take on what it is, and they're not really sitting with the music, man. So
I think a lot of people engage in group things, though. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, people are more comfortable going into spaces where they're, you know, with people that agree with what they're saying. And maybe that's human nature, right? You want to be around people who kind of see things the way you see them. But I think where hip hop has changed in a sense where hip hop doesn't get in any uncomfortable environments anymore. Like, sit down with somebody that doesn't agree with you. Sit down with somebody who is very critical of you. But when you're critical, though, you got to have your shit together and you got to have your reasons. I don't say what I say about Eminem just being off the cuff. Like, these are things that, you know, I have taken in, I've thought out, I've taken note of. And, you know, and I would say these things to him if it were in an interviewing setting. Now, no one's sitting here trying to take from anybody's career. Again, this is about making people better, making the genre better, and properly documenting hip hop culture. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? I think Kendrick has all the abilities necessary. I mean, he's shown that he can make hit records. He's shown that, you know, he can make great albums. I think Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is a brilliant single. I actually think that, all things considered, it's probably his best single. I think that record really epitomizes who he is as an MC, and still is a dope record that gets radio play and things of that nature. But I think that he can also do a little bit more of that. I'm not saying make that same song, but continuously growing on that that skill set. And his growth is happening however he wants that growth to happen. But what Kendrick has to understand, the type of rapper that he is, to get mainstream notoriety, it doesn't really translate to everyone, right? Like, when Jay was being that mainstream hip hop artist, he had to do some things that worked with the mainstream narrative and the things that were happening at that time. If you're going to sit here and stand alone and make more of the critically acclaimed stuff, some of your stuff isn't going to connect with the masses like Drake's stuff does. And when people say those things, I mean, it just is what it is, you know? Like, you don't really, he has the level of success from a number standpoint, and he doesn't make music for the masses. Is that fair to say? I don't feel like Kendrick's music is rooted in making it for the masses.
Here's an interesting thing. He's not a mainstream artist, but he somehow always have mainstream singles.
Exactly.
No matter what album it is, Good Kid, Mad City, you had Swimming Pools, you had was Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe on that. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then we had
Backseat Freestyle was a single on there too. Poetic Justice.
Poetic Justice. Those were the three singles, the ones I named, right? Yep. Then we go and we move to Damn, right? No.
We go to Butterfly.
And then we have All Right. And on there, and then we have, what was the other joint? He had one other joint that came off that.
Yeah, King Kunta on there.
King Kunta. And then
Black of the Berry was a single, and I was a single too. But see, again, those records really didn't hit like that because, again, he is an album maker, and those actually worked within the confines of the album. I think that, fortunately for him, with all of the things that were going on, the uprisings and all of that, All Right actually became a bigger single a little later.
Yeah, and then Damn, that had like his bigger joints. Exactly. Humble, you know, it had
DNA, you know, DNA. I think bigger than out there. He had Loyalty on there with Rihanna.
Exactly. And I heard Loyalty on radio all the time. You know what I'm saying? And then I also don't think he gets enough credit for the Black Panther soundtrack, because there were some joints on there. You know, it was more of a collaborative effort and more of a compilation piece soundtrack. But I feel like Kendrick knows what type of music he wants to put out there and what will push. Like I said, when we are naming those singles that we name, from Main Street standards, that's not the typical single that you hear on radio. So he has a way of making music he wants to, and if he wants to get it out to those avenues, he can, and they do successful. But Mr. Morale is one of those joints I think is like, he wasn't worried about that. It was more so of the message you want to get across on that album. Because when you think about it, can you name a lead single off the album?
Well, I think N95 was the lead single, I guess. I don't know. See, this is my thing, and this is what my thing was when Mr. Morale came out. I don't think Mr. Morale is an album that takes you 5 years to make, right? I think that and again, it's hard to even quantify what is an album that takes you 5 years to make. That was my issue with the break. I don't know what people feel like my issue with the break was outside of anything other than rhythm and the fact that the game had just changed so much. It's very difficult for anybody to come back from 5 years in the prime of their career. I mean, tell me when it's happened successfully. It's very difficult. Oh, Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, it's great that everyone can rap or create their own podcast. It's also bad that everyone can rap or create their own podcast. True. But yes, I mean, it's my critique with his 5 year break was the fact that it's very difficult for anybody to come back from that. And every time somebody had to or took a 5 year break, either their career was over or, you know, it was never the same.
So I like the fact that artists takes their time to actually live and have some experiences that they can come back and
I agree.
Put in their music. I don't want to hear it on social media. I don't want to hear it on tweets. I don't want to hear it on none of that. In interviews, I want to hear it in the music. So I don't know if that has anything to do with him releasing his music. I know he's very intentional about the way he released it. Like I said, Mr. Morale wasn't my favorite album, but I can't ignore the fact of the content that's on that album. For him to deliver that content, these are experiences. These are things he got to live and put on wax. Was it mainstream? Was it pleasing to the ears that, you know, it was something you bob your head to? That's subjective. For me, no. But can I say it's a bad album? No, I can't say it's a bad album when the subject matter was pretty good. You know, it's addressing a lot of things that a lot of rappers are not going to talk about or going to be vulnerable to talk about. But that doesn't solidify why I think Kendrick is where he is with me. I think it's the past bodies of work that he take the time on it. And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of artists don't take time with music no more. We're in the microwavable phase of music. People are not sitting and putting their experiences on music. They're putting their experiences on social media. They're putting their experiences on tweets and interviews. That it's so much of that it got away from the music. We have to get back to putting in the music and however you want to convey it. Now, if you want to put it and have some bops and make hit records off it, by any means, do it if it worked for you. But if you want to do it and have it more of a conscious thing, a conversation, whatever, it's like I said, these are artists, and the way they interpret their art is their way. Is either you like it or you don't like it. I'm not going to shame somebody if they don't like it. If you like it, cool, we could talk about it. But it is a very big microwavable society, and we're seeing that it's killing the culture, it's killing music. And the reason why these artists are constantly talked about and put on a pedestal so much is simply because other artists are not really making good music.
I think the dichotomy here when it comes to him, and not to interrupt you, is the fact that he doesn't, if we're talking about just from a content standpoint and we're just talking about the music, remove the individual from it, right? If you just listen to the albums, he doesn't really make music for mass consumption, right? It doesn't appear that way. But somehow he is a mainstream, massive success. And I think that's the part that's confusing for a lot of people. And then when you start comparing him to people who did make music for mass consumption, I mean, it's like, okay, well, he doesn't do this or he doesn't do that. And I think that's where the divide really comes. And the fact that he battled the guy who probably makes the most mass consumption music we've ever seen in hip hop, I think that also tips the scales for some people where they're like, well, they're too different, or he doesn't do this or he doesn't do that. And then when you look at the Super Bowl thing, it's like, okay, well, he doesn't have the records to do this performance. And now I'm not saying that he doesn't have a great catalog, because he does. But then we start talking about this is a performance or I guess, a headlining opportunity that's supposed to be reserved for people who have the most mass consumption records there that are out there, and he doesn't really make music for that. It's almost like, I don't want to say like, it's almost like Black Thought or, you know, or Lupe. He makes music with that type of approach. Even when you look at Outkast, like Outkast were album makers, but they made singles that were clearly for mass consumption. Like Rosa Parks, that's for the radio.
Let's think about it.
Back then, for the radio.
Back then, there was an effort that you had to make a single.
You had to do it, yeah.
You had to have a music video.
If Outkast was in this era, they probably wouldn't have made those records, to be honest.
Now, music is consumed totally different to the fact that these artists can do it whatever way they want to. Some of these artists can go sell out shows and don't do numbers album-wise, or don't have successful singles. Out of all, there's plenty of artists out there. And then we look at artists that tours and do stuff, and it's like, oh man, I didn't know this stuff was lit like that.
Right.
Like I said, they may not be popular to the mass of people, but they have their cult followings and stuff like that. Music is a what have you done for me lately thing. Yep. And you're only going to be as good as your last project. So I think when we start talking in the conversation of these big names of these rappers, they're not in competition with each other at this point no more. I think they're in competition with their last project. So what I want to hear from Kendrick now is just make a good album, bro. I don't care about you won. You can do your victory lap. You won. Just make good music. And I'm going to say that every show. Just make good music. That's what I want to hear.
Does he need to leave the Drake thing alone?
I wouldn't even address it no more, man. It's like it's redundant and it's really getting old. And I'm honestly getting tired of talking about it, you know? Because at this point, I want new music. I want something new to care about. I want good music, bro. Like, and good music doesn't always mean it has to be deep. It doesn't have every time somebody makes an art that we call music, it all serves a purpose. And I just need everybody in vast majority to get out there and do it. This year, what I would like to call a transitional year, if there was a transition. This is why we're stuck in this thing right now, because we're stuck in that, and we're in hip hop purgatory right now. Really, that's what it is. It's like nobody's dropping anything that's worth anything. And it's just like, damn, can these artists get out here and release good bodies of music? Like business wise, I can understand why these artists are not creating, but it's kind of like, bro, like we need it. We need it. There's a time where if there's not a time to like somebody come out and bring out something new right now, this is the time. We need
somebody, and you know, and I don't want to discount, you know, the stuff that's coming out. The people are making some quality music, but we need somebody to come out here and be what Kanye West was in 2010.
Yeah, man, it's like
the fantasy, and he had all of the Good Friday stuff. Like we need somebody to come out here and really go on a historic run. Like,
man,
you know, this is my year, and I'm taking it. But nobody really. Yeah,
that's why I respect the OGs right now releasing music, because I think they see it. They're probably real critical of music. Some of them will speak out and some of them won't because they have love for it and they don't want to sound like haters. But ultimately, the best thing to do is get out there and make music. LL proved that he could still make a good album, which is a solid album. He posted his numbers today. It was good. It was good. So I listened to the album personally. I think it's a good, solid body of work. But ultimately, it should be a effort of all artists to get out there and put out stuff and stop waiting on somebody to create a wave and for you to jump on it. Stop waiting for the new trend that everybody can jump on. Get out there and just make your art, man. If it fails, shit, get out there and recreate, bro. That's what this is about. And
what's
I think
the producer's role in all this stuff?
I think, that's another thing about it. I think production is hurting a lot of stuff too, because these producers are just throwing beats, just doing this, recreating a sound that's already popular. Producers got to get back
to come with the new sound, man.
Yeah, I think producers got to get back to producing. I mean, I remember we see old footage of artists. You know, we see old footage of artists where it's a collaborative effort. You have the producer, and he's kind of like they're giving a hook or they're giving a cadence, or you should say it like this. We're not getting that no more. We're not giving producers giving you this song and the artists are working their magic and they're doing what they're doing. It's not that anymore. We see it from the OGs. We seen Common do his project. We seen LL and what him and Q-Tip was able to do. But these artists of today, they need to get back to actually working hands-on with a producer and making good music. It's not happening, and you can see it, man. It's lazy. The way music is being brought out now is lazy, bro. And it's lazy, and it's been seen as being so easy that it's just like, like we really need a resurgence of people willing to put out and push the line, man. Every generation's supposed to push the line for the next generation to keep it going, and we're stuck right now.
Leroy Green with the super chat says, Mike, just making good music, quote unquote good music, sounds like just making it simple as possible. The Kendrick level of greatness, an artist has to make what people may hate. Well, okay. That's an interesting point, because I will say this, and I like to correlate Kendrick and Kanye, because I think that there are some, I don't want to say similarities there, but there are some dimensions there. We talk about, I think Kendrick doesn't happen in the way that he happens if Kanye doesn't do what he does. And let me explain that. I think that Kanye's approach to being a mainstream success, but still having a level of consciousness in his approach, I think opens the door for Kendrick to do what he does. Saying all that to say, I don't think Kendrick's had his Yeezus moment where New Slave, where he really goes in and doubles down on unpopular opinions, like Leroy is alluding to, if I think that's what he's going towards. I think that his time to make something that people hate was Mr. Morale. And I think he did a lot of unpopular things on there that, like even the domestic violence record, you know what I'm saying? Even the My Auntie's the Man record, you know what I'm saying? Like My Sober. I think that was him doing some things that people would quote unquote hate, and he put that out there. I don't know if you mean he needs to take more chances, because I think he's taking chances. I think when you talk about, I think the missing link for Kendrick and a lot of his more recent stuff is balancing out that experimentation and the palatability thing. I think that's been something that Kanye's actually struggled with since St. Pablo. I think that his experimentation on Yeezus was something that him as an artist champion, and the people who really rock with him champion, but his mainstream following didn't get it in that same way.
I think that Kanye's issue is the collaborative effort that he took to make those other albums is lacking. It's lacking now. So it's spiraling, and you can hear it in the music. So I'm not a fan of these Vulture albums. I think that Donda was a big miss, because what hurt Donda was him going back and releasing other songs that should have been on it, him playing with the playlist, and I feel like I
think Def Jam snatched it from him, but but see, again, that's because of his indecisiveness, and he kept pushing it back for years and years.
He's his own detriment to his music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Kanye is his own detriment to the music, and it used to be genius. And we used to think everything Kanye was doing is genius, and that he pushed the line, but there was a big collaborative effort to helping him with pushing those lines. And I feel like with his, his drama and the things he have going, those collaborative efforts are not there anymore, and it conveys in the art poorly. Because like I said, he always have something. And this is what I think is another detriment to Kanye. Nobody want to hear music from an artist constantly talking about the system. What I mean is, how many artists are held for keep on going against the industry and rap, blah, blah, blah. And it's like people love it all the time. Sooner or later, it's going to become redundant. It's going to sound like.
Well, that's how I felt about this new Kendrick record. I mean, really,
I can see how you say that, because I have friends that have said the same thing. So, like I said, I'm not hailing that as being his greatest effort. I think it was a response piece. But you're right. That's the lane I don't want to see Kendrick go in. I think I will hurt him more than anything. Just make good music, bro. Like, if we want to hear artists talking about their struggles fighting against the machine and music, blah, 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 then everybody will be Lupe fans. We have.
And I said this before. And not to interrupt you, but I've said this before. I start disliking when Michael Jackson approached music from talking about how famous he was and how much he disliked that. You know what I'm saying? Like at that, like you said, nobody really wants to hear their favorite artist out here complaining.
I mean, it's
You
why
know,
Wale. It's kind of the detriment to Wale, man. Wale is one of them guys I held up there, man. You know, I wrote an article about this guy, but he's victim of his own genius. He's victim of the complaint of the system, the algorithm, the consumers, man. Nobody want to hear that, bro. Just make the music. I swear, if you go out there and make the music you want to make, if it goes over, there's certain people that have to push the line, and it's not like that first, but it's appreciated later.
But that's part of your expression, though, and I get that. And I don't want to sit here and you know, down somebody's expression. But yeah, if that's how they feel and that part of your career consumes you, then yeah, it is gonna come out in the music.
It hurts the music, man.
But it hurts the music.
Yeah, it hurts the music because
that's what's happened to Kanye, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
it starts.
And he's inspired.
Music, man. Wale, he made the type of music you want to make, and he created a lot of misses and a lot of good joints. And it starts to become inconsistent to the point where it starts flatlining. And then now he's not relevant anymore. He falls. And it's just like at some point, man, we just gotta stop. We gotta have artists stop complaining, man.
Well, what do you think about coke rap? Because you know that's another thing that's out there where it's like, you know what, we got rappers who never really change up their subject matter, and you know they'll talk about selling dope from the first album to the 10th.
Since it was introduced to the game, it hasn't left. I mean, since that was introduced to the game, it literally hasn't left. And
but how do you grow out of that? I'll give Jay credit for that, because Jay, I mean, he might touch on it here and there, but he's become more than just the Reasonable Doubt guy. You know what I'm saying? Like he was able to expand his subject matter over the years.
I feel like, man, when we're talking about that, I feel like you got to make it sound good.
Let's use Pusha T for an example.
Pusha T, this is the criticism I get for people when I listen to Pusha. It is the coke rap. It does get redundant. His fans may love him for it, but it gets redundant. I actually like Pusha T's last album. I really do. But it always existed in hip hop. Now, if that's the lane that you want to be like on, cool. All right, that's you. But like I said, since it was introduced, it's been around. Jeezy had a career that was built off that. You know, the problem where it comes into you being just on that, when you start to switch it up, people are not going to respect it no more. And I think let's just take coke rap out of this, and let's just talk about artists that put themselves in a lane that they can't get out of, that when they want to create something new, it's not received well. Right. When you wrap yourself into a box and then you can't get yourself out of it, the fans have a right to be like, to have their opinions that they do. And that's why I kind of feel like Pusha is one of those things that's kind of bulletproof to it, because people will complain about his coke raps, but he'll still drop these projects and people will like it. I mean,
I want more from Pusha. And I want more from Pusha. To your point, I would give a group like an Outkast credit early on, and Tribe too. What they did for their listeners, they let them know immediately, we're going to change. Like, we're going to change every single time. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to deal with it. And the drastic change from Southern Playalistic to ATLians, you know, it was off-putting for people at first, but because the music was jamming, they got it. And then when the Kumanak happened, it's like, okay, well, we expect this from these guys. Stankonia happens, okay, this is what Outkast is. But when you start giving people the same type of content, album after album, yeah, you have a consistent following. But then what happens is people say that you're not growing. And when you do try to change, people don't embrace it. I've seen this happen with Conway. Like, Conway goes out there, that record with Jill Scott is brilliant. People didn't take it in like they should have because they're used to him doing a certain thing really well. Let me get to these super chats real quick. Brian says, we're stuck. You described it perfectly, Sharon. We're almost halfway through 2020, the 2020s, and it doesn't feel like anyone is making something that sounds new and it's changing the game since the 2010s.
Yeah, no argument.
Leroy with the super chat says people don't want to hear anti-system rap anymore because that very system ludes them to sleep, without them knowing so. The essence itself seems wrong. And let's see, I think there was another one, and I want to say something about this Pusha T album. My critique with the Pusha T thing is I thought that this album, It's Almost Dry, was an opportunity for Pusha T to, be in a conversation that he hasn't been in. And I think that so many things, and just my opinion, in his personal life happened between 2018 and when It's Almost Dry came out, that I thought he was going to give us a little bit more. He got married, lost his parents, unfortunately, had a kid, and we didn't get any. I'm not saying get perspective on those things because those are his business. He doesn't, owe us anything on that level. I just thought that with all of those life-changing things happening in such a short period of time, that we were going to get more than just the dope boy shit. And we didn't. And for me, I guess when we talk about the greats, I feel like in that same situation, the greats would have given us more. And so that made me kind of put Pusha T in a certain section.
I didn't expect more from Pusha T for the simple fact that he's 40 and he's in his 40s, bro. And this is the same
music. Though. He's kind of like a 2 Chainz.
Yeah, but this is the music you decided a long time ago you want to stick in and make. So from this point forward, I don't see you pushing the barrier. I think he's satisfied with that lane he's in. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Fabulous. Fabulous had plenty of opportunities to take over and do what he want to do, but I think he likes the lane he's in. Not everybody wants to be the king. And I love Pusha. Not everybody wants to be the king. I think Pusha just knows what his lane is and he caters to that lane, man. I think It's Almost Dry. He addressed some things, Buddy that was associated with all that mess. He did the interview with Vlad. He addresses that on the first album.
And I think that's one of the more brilliant moments on the album.
Yeah, so I like that from him that he got some personals he addressed, but like I get it. Like his fan base is fan base. When we look at Rick Ross, his fan base is fan base. Rick Ross doesn't get a lot of credit for, it's coke raps, but Rick Ross has great albums.
Yeah.
Rick
Ross makes great
albums, man. Like I don't think Ross get enough credit for how dope his albums is. I think his his miss to me was that collaboration Meek album and the project after that he did. Yeah. I mean, the project before that he did. I wasn't really a fan of.
The Port of Miami too.
Was that what it was? Yeah, I didn't. I don't know. I don't know if I like that.
He has some moments on it, but I don't think he updated his formula too much.
But Ross, he makes great albums. Jeezy, he made even the coke rap sound dope. Like he gave us dope music. That was a moment. That was a movement. So like
I view Pusha as somebody who had elite skill sets. Like I feel like if Pusha was on a record with Fabulous, it's gonna have the best verse. I seen Pusha get on records with, the people that's popping at the time, the Freddie Gibbs and guys like that. He was clearly the better MC on the record. Even when you look at him on Soul Paul with Jay, Saha, and Ye, like I think he has the best verse on there. And so he's kind of in a weird place. He's kind of in almost a Jadakiss kind of place. But I think that he's proven that he has a better solo output than Jadakiss does, in my opinion. So he's in a really rare place. He's kind of like stuck in that limbo between the A-list guys and the B-list guys, and he's like right there at the top of the B. And I thought that this record, It's Almost Dry, was his opportunity to get to that A-list.
Yeah, I think it's just he knows his base and he caters to that, man. There's certain artists that just cater to their base, man. I just feel like Pusha knows. I think that Kendrick knows that. I mean, not Kendrick. I'm saying Kendrick. I think Pusha knows like he's lyrically better than a lot of artists. I think he wants the credit for being an MC, but as far as the music that he goes into, man, I just feel like that's his lane that he wants to stick to, and he sticks in that lane, man. There's so many artists that make good stuff that could have went to the next plateau if they just would have worked hard enough or had a machine behind them of some sorts. And it's just like when we talk about those, they go in that BC tier of music, honestly, where they have cult followings and it's not pushing the envelope, you know.
I mean, his production throughout his career is Neptune's, Kanye, and Timberland. You know what I'm saying? He has the tools, right? He beat Wayne in the battle. He beat Drake in the battle, and we don't even talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Matt Max of the super chat says, laughing my ass off, hip hop has been stuck since the mid 2000s. Huh. I think the 2010s could rival the 2000s, in my opinion. Leroy Green with the super chat says, Push is dope, but that's why Stove God needs to go back to conscious rap because he's no Pusha T. He's Diet Coke rap. So he's just rapping about dope. So just rapping about dope ain't enough. Mad Max with the super chat says, all Ross albums sound the same. He's whack. So is his albums. He don't make decent albums, and Pusha ain't drop a great project by himself, period. And
Matt,
Kiss was
stop hating, man. You gotta stop hating.
The hating is all over the place. No. The hating
you gotta stop hating, bro. Ross makes great albums, bro. He has a great run of albums, man. Like
he said, he hadn't dropped a great project by himself, period. And Kiss would smack Pusha in a verses. Stop the cap, Mike. I'll say this.
Yeah, of course.
If he would do that to him in the verses, he would need all of his featured stuff. But if we're talking about just straight up group shit and solo shit, I don't know. Give me Pusha. Well, Jadakiss ain't got a Daytona.
I don't know.
Jadakiss ain't got a Daytona.
When I look at Kiss, man, I look at him different, man, because we seen what he did to Dipset. So his that's when we start to see different. It don't matter how big your hits are. Sometimes it's about owning that stage and that showmanship.
Yeah.
You know,
Jadakiss is so different, man, because he is one of the few guys, and I mean really few guys, where his style fits with anything. Like I remember back in the day hearing him on Knocking Heads Off with Lil Jon. I'm like, he doesn't even have to change up his flow for anybody, and his shit fits on anything. You could just copy and paste his joint to a Primo track, to a Lil Jon track, to whatever, and it works. And I don't know if there's anybody like that.
I'm not gonna lie. I wish Jadakiss got more respect as being a top tier artist. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's the albums. You talk about albums and body of work being so important. He doesn't have those albums that those top tier guys have. That's the only thing that separates him in that way. But if we went bar for bar, and if he's on the track with some of the greats, he stands bar for bar with anybody.
He doesn't get enough credit.
He's probably the greatest MC that doesn't have that body of work like that.
He doesn't get enough credit for going back at 50 either. And that's what I'm trying to say. Kiss doesn't get
Checkmate is crazy.
And I feel like that verses made a lot of people go revisit some of that music and put some respect on Kiss' name because Kiss gets busy. Hell, Styles get busy, man.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Styles get busy. Styles is the one with the catalog between the two, to be honest. Like
it's like, man, like I definitely think that Kiss got it, man. He's one of those dudes that he's spitting, man. But you know, there's certain people that hip hop will like to put in the limelight, and this is the artist they want to push. This is the out. These are the people that's there, and they're more appealable to mainstream, all that good stuff, man. So it's like,
well, speaking of those guys, and speaking of that versus, where does Cameron fit in all this?
I mean, I'm always gonna give Cam his credit, bro. Like Cam, that Dipset moment, you just had to be there, man. You just had to be there. Like
Cam over Jadakiss, all things considered.
Cam over Jadakiss.
Because I don't feel like Jadakiss got really about that night. I mean, because really, when Dipset started getting hit with them body blows, man, like Cam had to step out there and like kind of take over.
Cam gets busy. He gets split, but I feel like Jadakiss is the better MC. He's the better rapper.
Who's the better artist?
I feel like, as an artist standpoint, Kiss didn't have the same moment that Cam had. I just wish that Cam just would have got. I mean, that Kiss would have got a moment of a movement like Dipset. People, we're so far removed from it a little bit that people forget how big of that movement of that Dipset was, man. Like,
yeah, and Cam's the catalyst of that.
Yes, man, that Dipset movement was crazy, bro. But Cam's not fucking with Jadakiss lyrically, man. He's not. Cam gets busy.
Make oh boy.
Cam gets busy, but he's not fucking with Jadakiss lyrically, man.
I think that Cam doesn't get enough credit for how he influenced the style, the flow of the guys that are after him. Like I can hear Jeezy, Wayne, and Ross, and like with that one word flow and how he's placing words, that stuff comes from Cam. You know what I'm saying? Like his word placement and how he put things together. The one word thing I think stands out the most. It's really hard to really pin down Cam's flow because in my personal opinion, man, I saw Cam change up his flow. Like,
yeah, he used to spit.
It's incredible because I didn't like the way
Cam like that.
I didn't like on horse and carriage and all that stuff. But when he changed it up with Coming Home With Me and the way he was doing things there, it's like, yo, where did this flow come from? I guess we got to give Jules some credit for that too, because I believe Santana had some sort of influence on the way that Cam was changing his style too.
And Cam, man, when we hear his freestyles now, Cam is one of those people I feel like it gets better with his flow with time right now.
Yeah.
I would actually like to hear what a project from Cam will sound like now. I don't know if we'll ever get that, but I feel like he's one of those people that his the way he spits has gotten better, has improved. But man, that was a moment, man. These are kind of like moments that I can't compare, man. I really can't compare like a Jadakiss to Cameron because I feel like their ways and approaches of music and their moments are just so different, man. It's just like it's hard to compare the two.
Let me get to the super chats. Mad Max says, I'll say that Push mixtape and the first solo album was dope, but they wasn't no great albums at that. What a Daytona gonna work on Kiss show. This show Discipline is better than any solo Pusha record. Feel me? Too, etc. Okay. He said that show Discipline is better than anything on Daytona. Okay. Listen.
Yeah, man,
it's pretty heavy, man. Hard piano is pretty heavy.
Cam to Jadakiss, man. I feel like it's like different. It's like apples and oranges, man. It's like I really can't compare the two.
I would like to break that down though, because the thing is, Cam got albums and singles in the way that Jada does it. Now, obviously, bar for bar is Jada. Obviously, from a feature standpoint, it's Jada. But what do we hold higher? Albums, songs. I mean, Cam got that, man. Cam
just has the bigger moments, bro. Like I said, that movement of the popularity alone is why some people will go with Cam. But
well, that's the thing too, because let's look at Bad Boy, right? When Jada was in the lot, Mace was the guy in Bad Boy. I don't feel like Jada, I mean, obviously Jada had the skill set and everything, but he didn't have the star power to carry Bad Boy or Rough Riders. Cam did. Cam showed that he had the star power to put Dipset on his back and make it a movement in the way that it became. Because even when we look at the Rough Riders thing and we look at Money, Power, Respect, the song, Jada has an incredible verse on there, but DMX took over that record. You know what I'm saying? DMX put Rough Riders on his back. Can we sit here and legitimately say that we should put Jadakiss over DMX?
We know where X stands. You know what I'm saying? We know where X stands. I hate having the comparison of these artists.
I know, man. I mean,
it always ends up in me like sliding one of them to prove a point on the other, man.
It's what we do.
Yeah, man. But I just kind of feel like they all had their own special thing, man. Like I really feel like they really did have their own special thing in their moments, and I feel like Jadakiss never got fully over that hump, but I feel like his content and his showmanship and him as a rapper is legendary.
It's in a special place.
In the greats for me, but
his longevity too, because he sounds great to this day, and a lot of our greats don't sound the same as they once did. And I got to give Jadakiss credit for sounding so incredible at this stage in his career.
Yeah, but mainstream success. We're talking about albums, mainstream success. Like I said, DMX. DMX was the guy that I was like. He was the one that was giving Jay a run for his money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that as a Jay fan. DMX was giving Jay a run for his money. He had the mainstream success is different, bro. Like, just like I said,
Talking Hella Talk came from a whole different place.
Like, I feel like Jadakiss is a different breed, man. I feel like that's a different. He's proven why he solidified in hip hop, but he just didn't get over the hump. As
well,
you know,
see, what Jadakiss is, and not to interrupt you, but Jadakiss is, he is rooted in what hip hop is supposed to be, bars.
Next,
and you know what I'm saying, and he's jumping over the beat, so it's timeless in that sense. So all of the things that came with this hip hop thing, having to make hits, having to make albums and all that. Yeah, he might not have all of those things in spades, but what he has is the foundation of what this shit is supposed to be about. And that's kept him around. Mad Max in the super chat says Cam is like top 60. He's good. Love him. That's my guy. I grew up on Cam, but Cam can't make songs like Kiss made. Again, Cam don't have why, feel me. Still feel me, and all for the love. Come on, stop this, Mike. I'm just trying to be objective here, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Mad Max also says Cam is a court gesture rapper compared to him. I'm sorry, compare him to Luda. No,
nah, man.
Cam to Luda. I got Cam over Luda.
Cam gets busy.
Yeah, Mad Max also says X is better than Jada. It's not close, and I love Kiss.
Well, all right. So we know X had those moments. He had those albums, but lyrically, like, where do we place X in the lyric category? Like, as far as him spitting as an MC,
I don't think he's about that. I mean, you know, again, his lyrical approach is personal, right? I think he approaches things from a Tupac, Scarface, Ice Cube, Chuck D kind of lens, where it's like in your face. And it's about his expression. He's not gonna come with the punchlines. He's not a punchline rapper on no level.
Yeah, with X, his lyrics is kind of like you felt it. Like there was some stuff he was spitting. Like I like, you know, get at me, dog. Like all that stuff. Like for early DMX was spitting, but I feel like the thing about X is the moment. It's like it's the feeling that he captured. It's kind of like
what do you think about his verse on Niggas Gonna Start or something with the Locks and Mace?
Oh, man, Mace doesn't get credit for how good of a spitter he is as well.
Mace is dope.
Yeah, he's dope. But here's the thing with X, and I feel like it's like the biggest comparison I could put X into when it comes to lyrical ability versus capturing the feeling of people is like Tupac. Because people don't give Tupac credit for his rapping ability, but I listen to All Eyes on Me, and you know, I'm listening to Holla at Me. You can't tell me he wasn't spitting on Holla at Me. You can't tell me he wasn't spitting on Ambitions of Rada, you know, or Hearts of Men. You know, like
the thing is, when we talk about Tupac lyricism, it's kind of like with the Jay Nas thing, right? When people discount Tupac's lyricism, they're thinking about Biggie. When people discount Nas's beat picking, they're thinking about Jay. You know what I'm saying? When people discount, you know, Jay's storytelling ability, they're thinking about Nas, whatever. And I think that's where that comes from, because when we talk about lyrical versatility and just sounding great on everything, I don't think there's anybody that's more complete as an MC than Biggie was.
Yeah, I mean, I wish Biggie was around so we got more out of him. I felt like Pac's work ethic solidified him.
Biggie's work ethic was a little understated, though, because when you think about making a double album, writing a majority of hardcore for Kim, writing the damn Junior Mafia album at the same time, and then doing what he did on No Way Out for Puff, he was working.
I feel like Big still was under you know, kind of an idea of how he puts out music too. I think like that Diddy involvement kind of limited some of Big, but it also helped Big too.
It helped him a lot.
Appeal and stuff like that. But let's not forget, like Big was transitioning himself to do stuff with Junior Mafia. He was writing for others, so some of his material he's putting towards other efforts and stuff. And
he wrote for the whole Mafia, I thought, you know.
And then when we look at Tupac, though, I feel like his approach was different because they knew Tupac was hot. They was just feeding Pac. Beats, whatever beats I was supposed to go to Snoop, well, it was supposed to go to Dog Pound. I don't care. They're giving it to Pac. He's making hits, and he was doing it in such a time span that was short. Because people we have to really look at what age Tupac and Biggie was on and the type of music that they made. And now we look at the artists of today and their bodies of work. Like these guys, like Tupac's lyrics was prophetic, man.
He was 25 years old, man. Like,
and the stuff that he was able to produce, like his work ethic was crazy, bro. Like Pac is crazy when it came to the pen. It was crazy when it came to the work ethic.
And how timeless this stuff was that was being made at such a rate is incredible.
Great songwriter, man. Great songwriter. Yeah. I feel like when you comparing a Biggie to Pac, man, it's like these are legends that we got taken away from too early to we never really see what they were going to materialize into. You know,
I mean, for the work that we have currently, I would have to give it to Pac, right? But if you talk about somebody's ceiling being extremely high, Biggie had a very incredibly high.
We started to see his versatility on Life After Death. You know,
yeah, I mean, he could. I don't think he could have made the sky's the limit on Ready to Die. That's growth. Like, his growth was happening at such a rapid rate.
Yeah, and then I'm looking lyrically at where Pac was getting at, because coming off All Eyes on Me and then that Machiavelli album. That Machiavelli album have joints on there. You know, we're talking about Against All Odds. We're talking about Hail Mary. We're talking about Hit 'Em Up. We're Bomb First. We're talking about like the records that he had on there is just crazy, man. And I would love to see what Pac would have did with collaborations. You know, when the smoke settles from the East Coast, West Coast, Pac and Big stuff. I want to see.
He really did do a lot of collaborations.
You said what?
He was able to get a lot of features off, and I think that was Puff doing a lot of that. But yeah,
Puff did a lot of collaborations, but it was inside Death Row.
Yeah, it was his stuff. Yeah,
it was inside Death Row. Which Death Row was a force to be reckoned with. Like Biggie had more of a mainstream inviting thing where a lot of people mainly probably wanted to stick with like collaborate with Big more so over Pac. Just because that Biggie thing, that bad boy thing of like, oh, it's party, like we love this good music. So with Diddy alone, I feel like Biggie would have got those more favorable features. But there's people that I probably feel like they wanted to work with Pac, but because of that East Coast West Coast thing, they was kind of scared of the association. You know.
Now I do think that based on the catalog, I think that Biggie is the feature king. His features are heavy, and I think that also working with Puff, it really opened him up for R&B records in ways that people in his era weren't really, jumping on R&B records to that level. Because, Bad Boy, really, if we look at it, Bad Boy is just as much an R&B label as it was a hip-hop label. Matt Max with the super chat. I'm sorry, Leroy Green with the super chat says, what Cam did was upgrade his flow. At the same time, he locked in with heat makers. Jada never switched his flow or locked in with Just Blaze or a producer. It's an interesting take. Yeah, I guess we don't have a producer that connects with Jada in that way.
And I had to go back and look at the track list of Machiavelli just to make sure. Yeah, Hit 'Em Up wasn't on there, but he had joints there, man. Me and My Girlfriend. Oh man, To Live and Die in LA, Toss It Up. Man, like this out, like Against All Odds, man. Like Hail Mary, like this
on there. Living Down in LA is incredible.
Coming off that album, I would love to see what Pac would have did after that, man. Like, man. Like
Matt Max in the super chat says, it ain't about lyrics with X. X said different stuff. X had concepts. Jada never had. When Jada makes Damien or Stop Being Greedy, X's top 10 concept rapper, people don't factor that. Yeah, I mean, when you got stuff like How's It Going Down, Stop Being Greedy, the versatility that DMX was able to show with that first album is incredible. Mad Max also says X had great beats, voice, flow, and then he had concept records that were just like, wow. He never got the credit for that. Damien is just as good as a Dear Mama or Suicidal Thoughts or I Gave You Power. Another thing that X is underrated on his hook game. His hook game is incredible, man.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like Rough Riders Anthem, great hook. You know
And
what I'm saying?
you know, there's certain artists that have certain things that go over with fans, or it goes over with things. X had the streets, he had the hearts, just like Pac had the hearts. Biggie, you know what I'm saying? He made a lot of things cool, man. Black and
Yeah.
Ugly as ever, you know. Like Warning is my favorite Biggie song. You know, Biggie has joints
I
that I
always
love.
love Warner.
Warning is my favorite Biggie song. You
Is
know,
it?
yeah. Warning is my favorite Biggie song. Just from the video, the concept, I like Warning. I love Warning.
I
But
think I don't know. It's hard for me to pin down my favorite Biggie song. Off the top of my head, I might say "Everyday Struggle," but I will say this: I think the perfect song and one of the best hip hop records ever. That One More Chance remix is fucking flawless, man.
oh yeah, you
The
can
way
still
he's spitting on there, the sample, the hook, it's just a perfect song from beginning to end. And I think that's the moment where he really starts showing how different he was than his contemporaries, because I don't think there's anybody at that time that could have made that record.
For me, I know you're a guy that likes storytelling, and when I listen to Big on Warning, not only is it storytelling, but he's spitting at a top tier level. And then when you add the visual to it, it's just like, yo, he kind of made that into a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's grimy Big. You know what I'm saying? I
man,
remember when that came out, I was like, that was my joint. And I used to love the video because it was on some street stuff, you know, and those are my favorite hip hop videos. Like
and then
the
when
videos that weren't like the real shiny stuff. Like I love Cream, I love, you know what I'm saying, Bring the Pain and the grimy videos.
and
And
then
yeah,
when
that was a grimy one.
Life After Death, man, we started to see the versatility, his collabs. Like we got the joint with R. Kelly on there. We got 112 on the album, of course. Him collabing with them again. You see the versatility with him spitting with Bone. You know what I'm saying? Like Pac and Big both had joints with Bone.
So you know, I'm gonna keep it real, man. We were listening to Notorious Thugs the other night. You know, we were sitting here chilling at the crib, me and Dana on the gummy or whatnot. And I was listening to Biggie's verse on Notorious Thugs. And I'm like, yo, he's switching up his flow like every 4 bars. And I never really noticed it like that. I was like, how many different flows is he running with on this record? And it's really impressive. It's like, you know, I'm the dangerous, ain't too many. And then he switches up. It's like, and the thug and a lot of us. It's like he's just going. It's like each time he's switching it up and doing something that he's never done before, or something that we haven't heard from an MC in New York in that time period before.
Man.
And you working with Bone.
So it's like it's such a sad thing because we start seeing Pac, his music with like going from All Eyes on Me to Machiavelli, and Machiavelli for me being a no skip album, and seeing, I would love to see, we got unreleased music or whatever, but a project with him at the helm of it, that would have been great. But then we also seen Biggie transition into being an artist, not just a rapper, an artist, like making good full songs. His collaborations was on point. You know, just to see that they careers didn't materialize in the bodies of work that they were able to put out in that short period of time. That's what makes me kind of frustrated with music now, because these artists, although it was a different time, the approach with music was to make the best music that you can and putting your best foot forward. And I don't see that effort with music no more, man.
They really literally, and you can hear it even with the things that they said and the way that they carried themselves. They literally went out there and made music like they weren't going to be here for a long time. And I think that that sense of urgency is just not here for artists in that same way. And I'm not saying that people got to go out there and, you know, think that they going to be gone, but you know what I mean? Like, you heard that sense of urgency in Pac and Biggie, and the fact that they were making this stuff like it was their last, and it ended up being that, you know. Web Visibility with the super chat says, Big is hands down the most versatile rapper of all time, just off of 2 albums. Do you think Big would have surpassed Nas and Jay if he was still alive today? In my personal opinion, if Biggie stayed on that trajectory, like I said, that ceiling that he had, it's no doubt in my mind that he would have been the greatest MC ever.
The marketing of Big,
skill set, you know.
the marketing of Big long term wise is the only thing that I'm curious about how that would have went, because we've seen him from going the street to going you Frank White, that mafioso, you see the Junior Mafia thing. I wonder what would have been the way that they package and move Big from that point, from after life after death. What that would have been able to translate to him being a respected artist for what he's good at. One thing I know is Diddy was a marketing genius. What he did with Big was amazing. You made a guy that is not good on the eyes to a lot of people be that the man, you know what I'm saying, to do that.
What helped Puffy in those efforts, and that is genius on Puff's end.
Yeah.
Big was able to catch everything that Puff threw. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Puff throws him like an R&B record, Big kills it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Big's level of versatility is something that I think would have helped him change with the times so much better than most. I think that he would have been able to adjust to Timbaland tracks, to Neptune tracks, to Swiss tracks, all of those things. And I could have heard him on anything. I never heard Big on a record where I say that he didn't sound great on. Like, I didn't. If you listen to that Nasty Boy record on Life After Death, it's kind of a cheesy beat, if you will. This nigga was even killing that. He sounded great on there. Yeah. I remember we went to Tennessee, then came home. Mad Messages was on my phone. Chick named Simone, scheming, she fiending. But the penis, me being the man that I am, took her to the condo, pronto. Half Indian, I called a Tonto. Like, he sounded great on everything.
Like, Big's success for him, I think, would have been that he was starting to develop into what it took to be an artist. We start to see that. Pac, it was chasing a thing with his music where it started not only become more honest, but I start to see, I'm not going to say the maturity in his music, but I start seeing his approach to music starting to be more so on the level of making things that not only so personal to him, but also putting it out where it's fire. Like that Machiavelli album from beginning to end, bro. It was an angry album. I'm not gonna lie. It was, and the fact that it was rumored that I was gonna be a mixtape, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
I was supposed to be a mixtape. But Pac was also positioning himself to trying to push the Outlaws, or trying to, like, we business wise, we start to see what I would love to see what would have materialized from that. Some people don't like the Outlaws, some people like the Outlaws. I don't know. I think Pac started going into a sense of what he wanted to do. He was talking about Death Row East and what that would materialize into. I think Pac, I don't know how it would have been long-term wise with his music. I think it would still have been a message, but I think Pac's greatness would have came out of him as an actor long-term.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he would have gone more towards that. I really
know what that would happen for him, because Pac was a great actor, man. Like, and we were robbed of that.
It's just a superstar, man.
Yeah, man. It's just like I just really want to see what that would have materialized into. Taken so soon at that age. And like I said, man, when you come off us talking about that type of music, those type of artists, those type of catalogs, and what they left us with, and we see what we have here, I almost feel like we're just robbed of people wanting to create good art, man. People that just want to be great in their own right. It's just like people are just wanting to get by. They use hip hop and they use music as a stepping stone for whatever else they want to do, and it hurts the music. Like I said, this one show, one hit wonders are even important to music.
Yeah.
Like, what it's the stuff that comes along around that helped build this hip hop stuff, man. There's gonna be artists that will come out, push something, they're gonna go and come, and it just happens, bro. But it's really about who's gonna pick up that ball and keep running, and I feel like there's a lot of that shit being dropped, and it has no heart, it has no feeling, it has no things that inspires people, that gets them out there like that. And I feel like that's all is what's hurting music. People chasing the algorithm instead of chasing the heart, chasing the put the effort to making great music. And it's such a travesty to hip hop, because hip hop is still fairly new. This is a genre that's still developing. It's fairly new. And I'm not going to say hip hop is dead. I feel like it's going to be a resurgence somehow. I don't know where we're going to see it or the way we're going to see it, but it's still new. And when you know about anything new, there's an evolutionary stage that it goes through where it grows to something else outside of it. Is hip hop one of those genres and cultures that's going to grow to outside of hip hop as we know it, where we have seen that? But what is it?
Because if we don't take care of it properly, it could be obliterated in that sense, and it
Let's
could
think
be
about all
diluted.
Black music and what all other Black music has materialized into. Now they don't even associate us with rock and roll. They don't associate us with certain aspects of R&B to an extent, but you can't ignore that because we have too many R&B greats and soul greats. You can't take that away from us. So hip hop is one of those pieces in Black music that it's still young. We don't know where it's gonna go. We've seen from the 80s, the 90s to the 2000s what it has traveled to. And whether we like it or not, it's transitioning in front of our eyes, but we're not seeing what it's going to head into.
Exactly. And we got to take care of it. And, you know, it starts with the music, it starts with the artists. And, you know, and we want to push artists to make better material and more inspired material. And I think that, you know, just the overall theme of this show, I think that most people, or most of the artists out there right now, to me, they feel uninspired. And a lot of the material that's coming out now is uninspired material. And we gotta get people back to being inspired. And it's crazy when we start talking about Pac and Big. That wasn't even on the list, but to think the fact that these guys were making music like it was their last days, and it actually was. And you can hear the intensity and the improvement and how quickly they were able to evolve in that small period of time because they made it with a sense of urgency.
Let's think about how young he was when he did Brenda Got a Baby. When he's you know, when he's talking like I'm trapped, you know, when he's talking about Dear Mama, think about the age range he was. This is
crazy. These are kids, man. Like really. Web visibility. And we're gonna get up out of here. He says, I was listening to Machiavelli just yesterday with all the diss records and hip hop going on. I feel like Against All Odds gets overlooked. He went at Nas, Mobb Deep, Dre, De La Soul. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think All Eyes on Me is one of those underrated diss tracks. And he missed some on there. I think that whole album he was dissing people from Jay-Z to the Fugees to the Brat to to Bad Boy, Nas, you know, it was crazy. You know, man, yeah.
I mean, that's Pac, man. You know, and I think when it's all said and done, if we're being real honest, man, I think that based on what he was able to do in such a small period of time, and he did everything at the level that he's done it or did it, excuse me, with the versatility he did it, with the level of consciousness that he did it, then the hit records, and then how well these records aged. I think he's probably the greatest rapper ever.
And you know, I don't like them to be just summed up to the beef that was in, because let's not act like
they're bigger than that.
Don't have Dear Mama, Brenda Got a Baby, or the Smile record with Scarface, which is one of my favorite. You know, he has those records. You know, but you know, people like to put Pac in his box where he was like he didn't have a career before Death Row, and like I guess Death Row is where he's popular, the biggest to whatever. But let's think about the time he was on that and the bodies of work he has.
And when you think about that, man, that was only like what, 9 months of his life, something like that.
Exactly.
Crazy. All right, man. Well, yeah, man. Great conversation, man. We didn't even get to the Blueprint 2 thing, and I know Future's dropping Friday, so we definitely gonna talk about Future's new mixtape on next Monday show, probably on the Weekend Rhyme as well. But yeah, man, great conversation, man. And we overall, everybody needs to be inspired, right? I think the artists need to be inspired, and us podcasters as well. We need to be inspired as well, and not just throwing out microwave takes, because microwave takes is killing the culture too.
And it has to just be a better effort. If you know what you want to be best at, aim to just be best at that. If you want to be the hot take person, be the hot take person. If you want to be the controversial guy, be the best controversial guy you could be. Yeah. But on that art and just be dope at it, man. I just feel like, you know, it's a clout-based industry that's going on right now. And it's always been about clout, but it's being so more apparent now that people just have to care about the best foot forward they could put in their art. Whether it's you on this mic talking on the podcast, whatever you do, just be great at it, man.
Well, I love that, man. That's a great thing to leave people off with, man. I appreciate you again, Siobhan, man. And next Monday, man, we'll do this again.
Yes, sir.
Cheers.